Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. You could join me in honoring America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you call the roll, please?
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Johnson.
Here.
Councilor Mercier.
Here.
Mayor Milanauza. 8 yeas, 1 absent.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence with darkened chambers for John M. Doherty, Lieutenant, Lowell Fire Department. A loving husband, father, brother, uncle, friend, colleague. He was loved and adored by every member of the Lowell Fire Department, and he certainly will be missed immensely by them and by his family. May he rest in peace.
Thank you. May you rest in peace. First order of business is a presentation from author and Professor Robert Ferrant and author Christoph Strobel to present the City Council with autographed copies of their book. Will you please step forward?
Good evening, everybody. I wasn't sure that I was supposed to autograph them, so they're not, but if you want to give me $10, I'll autograph. They're here. Let me just explain really briefly what this consists of. Christoph Strobel is actually on vacation. He's not here. But Gordon Hamm, who's one of the characters in the book, not a character in a bad way, in a good way, and Annabelle Souza, who's one of the cover artists for the book, are both here with me. This was a project that was funded by the Lowell National Park, which started about 3 years ago, to write a history of immigration in Lowell and to really take a look at particularly the more recent immigration, people coming into the city since about 1970. And what we did is we produced a report for the park, and I have a copy of that for all of you as well. And then in the process of doing the research, we did 35 interviews with recent immigrants. 9 of those are in this book titled The Big Move. So you get a really rich history of newcomers coming into the city. I think I'm biased, I guess I like it. And as well, we worked with the Revolving Museum in Lowell to work with Lowell High students to do murals themselves depicting their own stories of how they or their families arrived in Lowell, and then we selected 2 of those murals to be on the cover. So this is really a project out of love for the city. It involves the artwork. You just graduated, right? Just a recent graduate of Lowell High who can now have on a resume when she goes to school that she has a book cover. Gordon's story is in here as well. I don't know if you want to say something or if you do, or no? They're shy. So anyway, it's with great pleasure that I'm giving you a copy of the book and as well a copy of the report for the National Park. So I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is citations. I have the honor to give 2 citations for the 2011 Art Walk Award recipients on behalf of the mayor, Jim Milanauza. The first citation reads, be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby congratulates Donna Berger for achieving the Art Walk 2011 People's Choice Award in the City of Lowell. Donna is an award-winning illustrator, artist, graphic designer, and marketing consultant with studio space on Wilson Street in Chelmsford Center. Using creative Macintosh software and traditional drawing and paint techniques, Donna creates illustrations designed for picture books and children's publications, as well as design and marketing materials for business clients. The City of Lowell commends the dedication of Donna Berger for her commitment to the Greater Lowell region. The entire city of Lowell extends its deepest wishes to Donna Berger for continued success. Given this 9th day of August, 2011, James L. Milanazzo, Mayor. Donna, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much for this award and recognition. And I would like to just tell people, besides getting this today, my display is going to be shown in the American Textile Museum. They contacted me today, so it's going to live on, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to contribute to the City of Lowell and its history. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have the honor of presenting another citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby congratulates I-Formation for achieving the Art Walk 2011 Juried Award in the City of Lowell. Lowell resident Frank Casaza is the artist and creator behind I-Information. Based out of Western Avenue Studios, I-Information is an umbrella for all of Frank's projects, referring to the idea that his work keeps forming and changing for the eye. Frank has participated in exhibits and live art festivals across the U.S. and internationally in Europe, South America, and China. The City of Lowell commends the dedication of I-Formation and Frank Casaza for his commitment to the Greater Lowell region. The entire city extends its deepest wishes for continued success. Given this 9th day of August, 2011, James L. Milanazzo, Mayor.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda is a proclamation from the mayor to Dorcas Griggs, Lowell Community Health Center for the National Health Center Week. By his honor, James L. Milanazzo, Mayor, a proclamation. Whereas from August 7th to 13th, our nation will celebrate the 2011 National Health Center Week. This year's theme is Celebrating America's Health Centers, Serving Locally, Leading Nationally. This theme highlights the important role community health centers play in providing affordable, high-quality, and cost-effective health care to all people, regardless of their ability to pay for services. And whereas, since 1970, the Lowell Community Health Center has offered high-quality, culturally competent health care for all Lowell residents. As a result, the health center served nearly 39,000 individuals last year, or at least 1 in every 3 Lowell residents. And whereas, to serve these patients better and to increase access for the estimated 10,000 Lowell residents who are still medically underserved, the health center will invest nearly $40 million over the next year to build a new state-of-the-art healthcare facility on Jackson Street in downtown Lowell. Now, therefore, I, James L. Milanazzo, Mayor of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim the week of August 7th through 13th as National Health Center Week and urge all citizens to recognize the important contributions of the Lowell Community Health Center. Given this 9th day of August 2011, James L. Milanazzo, Mayor, City of Lowell.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here again this year to celebrate National Community Health Center Week. And I'll also be able to update you about our past year and our plans for the future. This week celebrates the work of over 1,200 community health centers across the country, which provide quality care to primarily underserved communities. We're very fortunate to have a community health center in the city of Lowell. Since we were here a year ago, we have served 39,000 people of all ages, or 1 in every 3 Lowell residents. We've provided them with primary medical care as their family doctor, as well as behavioral health services and health education through 145,000 visits. We have never turned anyone away because they did not have health insurance, could not speak English, or had a complicated medical history. We provide quality health care to those who need it most. Tonight, I'm so excited to be able to report on the great progress that we have made in our planned expansion on Jackson Street. We've secured all of the financing that we need to move forward on our $40 million investment in the city of Lowell, its healthcare system, and its economic status. An estimated 200 construction jobs will be created by this project. We'll start construction this fall, and in a year, we'll be inviting all of you as we open the door to Lowell's new community health center. And here is a great depiction of the way that things will look a year from now when we open our doors. When we celebrate our grand opening next fall, we'll also celebrate the fact that 10,000 new patients will gain access to ongoing medical care, that a now vacant historic mill will find a new and vital purpose, and 100 Lowell area residents will join the existing 250 employees at Lowell Community Health Center. To complete our project, we have embarked on the health center's first capital campaign in our 40-year history, and we're seeking to raise $5 million. As you'll see in the case statements that are on your desk, we enclosed packets that we gave you tonight. Our campaign theme is Caring for Lowell, a theme that I know each of you find resonates with you. To tell you more about the health center and our campaign, we've invited Bruce Robinson, who is on our board of directors from Fred C. Church Insurance Company. And Bruce will briefly share why he cares for Lowell. Bruce?
Thank you very much. I will be brief, I promise. It's warm in here tonight. I'd like to share a story that really taught me the meaning of what the Lowell Community Health Center means to the city and really to the neighborhoods here. When I first came to the board a few years ago, I knew that they did good work, but I really didn't understand the nature of the kind of work that they did. And so this is a true story about a young couple, the wife originally from the Lowell area, but they're at this point in their lives, they're out of the city. And it's the perfect family situation. You have a young husband and wife, 2 beautiful young boys. Everything is great. The husband is very successful in their career. They have their health. And then one day, as I often say, the dreaded doctor's visit, where you can get the news that can change your whole life, occurs. And the wife finds out that she is now about to be battling a very serious, life-threatening disease. Not great news with young children, but we can deal with it. Well, people in stressful situations often do different things. Who knows why, but in this particular situation, the husband, the father of the 2 children, decided he wasn't in it for the fight. And in fact, he left the wife and the 2 boys. So as bad as this is with the wife learning that she has a devastating disease and the husband leaving, and she's got 2 young boys to bring up, her life changes even once again as she goes to seek medical care and learns that the husband had stopped payment on the health insurance. Quite a situation. So here she is facing a life-threatening disease, 2 young boys, and all she wants in the world is for her children to be safe and well. Long story short, she ends up coming back here to Lowell, her home community, and she gets guidance to come visit the good folks at the Community Health Center, fully expecting when she came in, because she had no insurance, for them to listen politely to her story and bid her adieu. But what happened was they opened their doors, they opened their arms, they opened their hearts to her and to the 2 young boys. Fast forward, years later, the wife is well, healthy, vibrant. The boys are great, normal, well-adjusted. She is here working in the city of Lowell. And the great news is, because of her employment, she has access to private health insurance now. And you know where she still gets her medical care? She's a consumer at the Community Health Center. And when you ask her, she says it's very simple. Who would know me and my children any better than those that treated us years ago? Who would be more caring and compassionate than the nurses and doctors at the health center who took us in when we had nothing? And so today, I'm very proud to say, not only is this individual a vibrant worker giving back to the community, she sits on the board of the health center with me. She has taught me the meaning and the essence of what caring for Lowell is. And I know that you as city councilors in your volunteer positions, that you care as well. And so we'd like to invite you all, as a group, to please come visit us at Jackson Street before the project begins, so that you can share in Dorcas's vision and passion for healthcare in this community. We have $3.8 million of the $5 million to go. We need everyone's help. We know we will make that goal. 1 year from today, we'll be open, serving 1 in 2 in the city of Lowell. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and people can get more information about our new project on our website, which is www.lchealth.org. Should be in your materials as well. So thank you so much for celebrating this week with us.
Thank you very much. The next order of business is the acceptance of the July 12th and, July 26th
So moved.
minutes. Take them together. So moved. Second.
I wouldn't want to take them together because I have to vote present on the 26th because I wasn't there.
Okay. Motion to accept July 12th. Second by Councilor Murphy. All those in favor? Chair votes yes. July 26th. Motion approved by Councilor Mendonça. Seconded by Councilor Dakota.
Two present.
2 present.
Right.
Okay. All those in favor? Chair votes yes. Okay. Not quite being 7 o'clock, we'll go to the city manager's portion of the agenda and the communications from the manager.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes. Thank you, Acting Vice Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge that our manager, Lynch, did include in our packet this week a beautiful letter to the Postmaster General in Washington, D.C., asking him if he could respectfully request a reconsideration on the closing of the post office at the downtown branch of the Conroe Market and Central Streets. It was a very well put together letter. I don't know if it's going to help, but it was something that I think needed to be done, and I would have probably thought some of my colleagues would have probably made the motion to ask the manager to reconsider, but he did that on his own, which is a good thing. He stresses how this particular branch is a critical part of the strategy and the service related to the most vital part of the residents in the city, and the downtown being a neighborhood. So I hope that it helps. I know there are people that are concerned, and so having seen that letter made me happy that you did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the manager for the report on the burnt-out building at 352 Wilder Street. And in your report, it says it could be under receivership, and I'd like to know what the city plans on doing with the building, rehabbing it or auctioning it off, or get it back on the tax rolls?
We will, first we have to go through the process of receivership, and the idea there would be that we would go in and do the necessary repairs and then take the actions to transfer ownership. Obviously, there's still people with an ownership interest, and we need the courts to actually rule to put it under our care. But we want to get it back on the tax rolls and back for habitation.
Has the abutters been notified that the city is doing anything?
Not sure. If we noticed, did you know? Not yet, but we
Could
will
we,
do that.
please?
Absolutely, Council.
Thank you.
Councilor Mendonça.
Just a question regarding the communication regarding Councilor Murphy's motion about TIFs. There's a table, and I appreciate the report. And basically, the bottom line is that there is some positive economic impact, but we're still subjected to the economic conditions, which are not helping at the moment. My question is, under proposed jobs retained and actual, there's near the bottom, there's a 119 and a not applicable. And I was just wondering if somebody, I think there's a typo here as to which one goes where. So through the chair, if someone knows what it should be.
I'll ask Mr. Bakey to address that.
Thank you, Councilor, for noticing that. In the proposed jobs retained column, the numbers for Tremont Yard LLC and Christec Interconnects were transposed accidentally. So the 119 proposed jobs retained actually applies to the St. Jean d'Arc Credit Union project at Tremont Yard, and the not applicable applies to Christec, which was not a company that had any presence in New England prior to opening the office here in Lowell. So all the jobs there are new jobs.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to check what the correct value was supposed to be.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that particular issue, I think I would refer that, as well as a previous response to coming up with some guidelines on for a TIF policy, as well as a response to a motion that was responded to last meeting on the Grow Lowell initiative, coming up with some kind of more formal economic gardening program here in the city, to refer those three motions to the Economic Development Subcommittee for further discussion.
Okay. Second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor? Aye. Chair votes yes. Anything further under the manager's responses to council motions? Councilor Murphy?
I did want to note a response here on submitted on Cambodia Town, and the update on what's been happening there, and sort of the work plan or the work schedule for the end of the summer. And just to thank the planning department, who has really worked quite hard on over the last year on putting together some kind of a plan to drive more businesses to that area, and for working very closely with the CMAA, the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association. And I know that the manager did attend several meetings and has been committed to that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything further? Councilor Mendonça?
In our packet, there's also a report from the auditor regarding accumulated sick and vacation accruals, and that's quite a liability for the city. The original motion was by Councilor Elliott, so I just threw the chair to Councilor Elliott. Would you like to have this referred to the Finance Subcommittee and see what the city might do so that there are no surprises in the future as these are come due as our employees retire? So,
Thank you. Second by
Yeah, I was going to make the same motion, so that's fine. That makes a lot of sense. So refer to the Finance Subcommittee and see what appropriate actions we could take.
Okay. All those in favor? Chair votes yes. Anything further? Councilor Murphy?
I have more from both this this meeting and last meeting, but we're at 7 o'clock now. I don't know if you want to
Should we recess from there and do the
move
public
to a
hearings?
public hearing.
Okay. Under the public hearings, our first public hearing is an ordinance for a zoning change at Livingston Ave to SSF zone. First reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council, ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled zoning by changing Livingston Avenue area property to a suburban family zoning district and amending Section 11.1.7 notification of application for building permits. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. The Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, hereinafter called the Code, adopted by the City Council on December 23, 2008, as amended, is hereby further amended with respect to Chapter 90, entitled Zoning, adopted December 7, 2004, as amended as follows. Section 3.2, Zoning Map, that the existing traditional single-family TSF zoning district in the area of Livingston Avenue, as shown on the zoning map in the custody of the city clerk, with an electronic record of the zoning map maintained by the Management Information Systems Department of the City of Lowell, is hereby deleted and amended as follows. By striking from its present existing TSF traditional single-family zoning district the area described on attachment A hereto, and substituting said area into the SSF suburban family zoning district as described on said exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof. The new proposed zoning district SSF is shown as shaded area on plan attached hereto and made a part hereof as exhibit B. The zoning map in the custody of the city clerk with an electronic record of the zoning map maintained by the Management Information Systems Department of the City of Lowell shall be changed to conform with this amendment. Number 3, Section 11.1.7, notification of application for building permits. In the first sentence of Section 11.1.7, insert the following language, or foundation permit, after the words within 24 hours of applying for a building permit. Said Section 11.1.7 shall now read as follows. 11.1.7, notification of application for building permits. Within 24 hours of applying for a building permit or foundation permit under 780 CMR 111.1, the applicant shall post a sign consistent with the regulations of Article 6, Section 6.3.2, open parens 20, close parens, of this ordinance upon the property to notify the public of the work to take place. No building permit shall be issued until such a sign has been posted for 14 days. Number 4, by adding a new subsection 5 to Section 11.1.7, which shall read as follows. 5, applications for building permits where the property had already been previously posted, not more than 6 months earlier, in conjunction with an application for a foundation permit. Number 5, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage in accordance with Section 1.7 of the Lowell zoning ordinance and provisions of Chapter 43 and 40A of the General Laws of Massachusetts. Approved this to form Christine P. O'Connor, City Solicitor. This is not on for a public hearing, but to be referred to a public hearing on either September 13th or September 27th.
Motion to send to public hearing.
Tonight is the public hearing.
Yeah, apparently it's listed incorrectly. It's not on for a public hearing. It's on to be referred to a public hearing is what the information we're getting. So, Mr. Bakey?
This matter was referred back in late June to a public hearing tonight before the full city council.
City Solicitor?
Apparently, it did not go through the proper posting and public notice for the public hearing, so it will have to be referred out.
Motion for to have a public hearing on September 13th?
Yeah.
Councilor
Is
Martin?
there sufficient time to get it properly advertised and for September 13th? I would, okay.
So moved. Second, Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor? Aye, chair votes yes. The second order of business on the public hearing section is in order to amend order to abandon Border Street. Commonwealth of first reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council, amended order to amend the order to vacate, discontinue, and abandon certain public interests, rights, and easements in a portion of Border Street in the City of Lowell. Whereas the City of Lowell vacated, discontinued, and abandoned a portion of Border Street on September 25, 2007, attached hereto and marked A, and whereas said order was subject to the restriction that no permanent buildings, structures, or plantings shall be erected on area abandoned, and whereas it is the desire to amend said order recorded at Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds on June 3, 2010, in Book 23992, page 234, and whereas said order shall hereinafter be amended by deleting the restriction that no permanent buildings, structures, or plantings shall be erected on area abandoned, now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City of Lowell by the City Council of the City of Lowell as followed: that said order to vacate, discontinue, and abandon certain public interests, rights, and easements in a portion of Border Street in the City of Lowell, recorded at Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds on June 3, 2010, in Book 23992, page 234, shall be amended as deleting the restriction that no permanent buildings, structures, or plantings shall be erected on area abandoned. The remainder of the order to vacate, discontinue, and abandon a portion of Border Street dated September 25, 2007, and recorded June 3, 2010, Book 23992, page 234, shall remain in full force and effect. Second reading by, if there's no objection, by title. To amend the order to vacate, discontinue, and abandon certain public interest, rights, and easements in a portion of Border Street in the City of Lowell. Now, Councilor, open up public hearing.
Oh, all right, sure.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Good evening, Vice Mayor Broderick, Manager Lynch, members of the council. My name is Stephen Geary. I represent George Scannell, who's the trustee of Hyacinth Realty Trust, who own the parcel in question here. They actually own this parcel and the abutting parcel to the other side. So they're actually the direct abutters to both parcels. And they purchased this land back in 2007, sometime in July, almost simultaneously with purchasing the land from the railroad next to it, with the intent in building a two-family structure on that. When the deed was recorded, apparently the standard abandoned language was in there where no structures can be built on that property, and we are requesting and have requested that the city consider abandoning that language. I think this was already discussed at a public hearing, and there was some concern about the abutters being notified and whether or not the abutters had any objection. Mr. Scannell did speak to all the abutters around that property. As I said, he is the direct abutter to himself on both sides, but he did speak to the gentleman who owns 6 Quebec Street. He had no problem with it. He spoke to the person at 118 Maple Street. They had no problem, and at 326 Lincoln Street, and they had no problem. So for all intents and purposes, none of the abutters really had any issue with it. In fact, most of them were eager to see this land developed, because if you've gone by there, down Quebec Street as it turns around, it's the end of the street. And you can see that it's basically a makeshift junkyard for the neighborhood or for people passing by. That's where air conditioners are thrown, the jugs of oil, or anything that people don't want. And the neighbors would like to see that cleaned up, and the best way to do that is to have that land developed. And that was the intent of the Scannells when they purchased this property a few years ago. And we would ask that the council consider abandoning the language that restricts the construction of any kind of unit on that property. I think back when this language was proposed for abandonments, it protected the direct abutter from somebody building a property right next to them or building a structure. In this case, the Scannells purchased these two parcels together with the intent of developing that two-family. They worked with the Planning and Development Department, I believe, during that process, and this is the only glitch that we have, and we respectfully ask that the council consider approving this tonight. And I'm here to answer any questions that anybody may have, and to the extent that I can answer them.
Thank you, Attorney Geary. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? Hearing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing and open up for opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, close that portion of the public hearing and open up to the floor. Councilor Caulfield.
Move for approval.
Do we have a second? Second by Councilor Mercier?
No, I'm not seconding it. I asked before that we have proof from the residents and abutters that, I don't understand why Border Street was abandoned in 2006. They moved to abandon, and now you're coming before us to, to amend the language or abandon a language. You're telling us that the abutters, they approve of it, or?
Yes, if you go by the parcel, the exact, I don't know if you have a plan, but the exact parcel, the skin, if you take Border Street, which is a strip that goes down the middle, that's a paper street. Quebec Street goes this way, the Border Street.
I know where it is.
Okay,
I know where it is. But I asked for specific information from the abutters that say that, and I'm supposed to take your word that you're coming before us, that you notified these abutters. And I mean, I've got 7 people in 2006 that said they wanted to abandon this. And now, because they didn't want any construction, now all of a sudden people around there change their mind and they don't mind construction. I mean, I'm a little bit leery because, here we have a group of people that said they wanted to abandon this Border Street, a portion of it. Now you're coming all these years later stating that this family wants to build there. I don't know. I don't see any proof. I don't know. They're not here to say that they don't want it, but yet were they notified? I don't know that. How many people around there were notified? Any of these people in 2006 that opposed, that supported the abandonment, and now they're still there or they're not there? I don't know where you're coming from with this. I really don't.
Well, I guess if I can address them one at a time. The first issue, as far as why are they coming now, I think there was a delay in something with the underground storage that delayed whatever that they were doing over there. So the delay was just, until the land was able to be developed the way that they had intended on doing it. So when they purchased this property back when, the intent was always to build a multifamily unit on it. The Scannells also own the parcel across the street, on the other side of the street. So when we speak of abutters, I wasn't here a few years ago, but when we speak to abutters, I know that my client, who I believe, and I can only vouch for him, I don't have any evidence, but we are at a public hearing and there's nobody opposing it, but he did go around door to door and he knocked on his door. I could tell you that Adam Jack at 6 Quebec Street said he has absolutely no issues. In fact, he wanted the trees down. Next to him, there was 118 Maple Street. The woman didn't want to give her name, but she said she has no issues. She doesn't want anything to do with it. And the 324 Lincoln Street, the owner, Joe Pazinski, had no issues, and he also talked to his son, who lives at 324 Lincoln Street, and they said, good luck with it, we hope you get it.
And I can appreciate that. So I'm going to take your word that you did your homework and notified abutters as to the intention of our vote, because I don't want to vote for something and have next week people come by and say, gee, I didn't attend that public hearing because I didn't know anything about it. I'm not going to be put in that position anymore. You can understand.
Councilor Mercier, I completely understand your position.
Okay, so I'm taking your word that in a week from now or a month from now when construction's going on, we're not going to get backlash from residents that say, gee, I didn't know anything about it. So I'm taking your word, Attorney Geary, that you did do your homework.
Well, I want to be clear that my client has informed me, and I trust and believe my client, that they talked to these abutters that I just notified, and nobody had a problem with it. That I can give you my word that occurred. Right. I don't have any documents where somebody signed off anything in that neighborhood.
And you don't have any people here that are abutters that say they support it. I don't see that either. But right. I am going to take your word that you're telling.
Right. And again, just if it helps a little bit, you're very familiar with the area, you all are. But there's all commercial condominiums during the whole length of that street. Right around the corner, there's probably 3/4 of a mile of relatively new multifamilies. So I don't know who opposed it in 2007 or why, but the entire area is developed, except for this one parcel that right now, for all intents and purposes, is only being used as a dumping ground. It's an eyesore for the city. This property will be developed. It will be developed in a nice way. There'll be a structure on that. It will be on the tax roll, and it's going to enhance the neighborhood. It's not going to detract from or have any kind of derogatory effect on the neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it's a good project, and I can give you my word that my client told me that, and I believe him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Mercier. I think, as a point of order, Council Martin seconded the motion to approve. Council Caulfield,
I think Council Martin wanted to speak.
do you want to speak?
I was raising my hand a second, that's all.
Okay.
Counsel.
I would just like to very briefly say that I've known attorney Stephen Gary for years. I don't know anyone who represents the law profession with much integrity and represents clients and is honest and truthful. And that's enough for me. He's an excellent representative of people and an excellent lawyer as well. Thank you.
I'm not sure I deserve that, but I'll take any compliment I can get, Councilor Caulfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilman Donta?
Yes, this is no reflection on the representative or the developer or anything. I'm just taking this on its face. The city abandoned this property under the condition that it not be built on. And now we're asking to undo that. In my opinion, the property would have been worth more in the original abandonment if it didn't have this restriction. So I'm concerned about the city just giving up its rights to it as we are, just by changing the language. I honestly think that the property, again, would be worth a lot more if it didn't have these restrictions when it was originally abandoned and put up for sale. And for that reason, I'm not in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Mendonça. Nothing further? Roll call?
Councilor Murphy? Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
No.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo? 6 yeas, 2 noes, 1 absent.
I only heard one no. I don't know where the second one came from. I voted yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. 7 yeas, 1 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of
Thank
council.
you.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business under public hearings is a loan order, Lowell Regional Water Utility Upgrade Bond, to borrow $26,274,000 for the purpose of financing the costs of upgrades to the Lowell Regional Water Utility Lowell Water Utility water system in the city of Lowell. Second reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council, loan order, Lowell Regional Water Utility Upgrade Bonds to borrow $26,274,000 for the purpose of financing the costs of upgrades to the Lowell Regional Water Utility water system in the City of Lowell. It is ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell by a two-thirds vote as follows, that the sum of $26,274,000 is appropriated for upgrades to the Lowell Regional Water Utility water system, including without limitation, replacement of water main and appurtenances, raw water pump station improvements, treatment plant improvements, including installation of photovoltaic panels and lagoon rehabilitation improvements, and/or new construction of booster pump stations and residential meter replacement, including all engineering and design costs related to such projects, and including without limitation all costs thereof as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 29C of the general laws, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the city manager, is authorized to borrow $26,274,000 and issue bonds or notes therefore under Chapter 44 and/or Chapter 29C of the general laws or any other enabling authority, that such bonds or notes shall be general obligations of the city unless the treasurer with the approval of the city manager, determines that they should be issued as limited obligations and may be secured by local system revenues as defined by Section 1 of Chapter 29C, that the treasurer, with the approval of the city manager, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Water Pollution Abatement Trust established pursuant to Chapter 29C, and in connection therewith to enter into a loan agreement and/or security agreement with the trust, and otherwise to contract with the trust and the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan and for any federal or state of aid available for the project or for the financing thereof, that the city manager is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the project and to take any other action necessary to carry out the project, and that the treasurer is authorized to file an application with the Municipal Finance Oversight Board to qualify any or all of the bonds under General Laws, Chapter 44A, and to provide such information and execute such documents as such board may require for these purposes. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Now open the public hearing. Mr. Manager.
Just if I may, is by way of introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Lahiff from the Water Department and the engineers from Woodward and Curran. This is a continuation of the efforts that have been ongoing for several years now to make necessary improvements to obviously a very important service that we offer to the citizens of Lowell by way of clean drinking water, as well as water necessary for fire protection. And I think the presentation that you'll see will show that the improvements that we're talking about, the expenditures that we're including within this, will improve our ability to provide that service, but importantly also, in many cases, help pay for themselves in terms of, as we all know, this is an enterprise, and enterprises are supposed to be self-supporting, and a big part of that is reducing costs and improving our efficiencies. And with the solar project that's included within this, as well as the meter replacement, and some other improvements that we'll be making, we will in fact reduce costs that will go a long way towards making the system more self-sustainable. So at this point, I apologize that our technology is not working tonight, but we do have the PowerPoint presentation that's been handed out to each one of the councilors that Mr. Lahiff and the engineers from Woodward and Curran can walk you through.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, City Councilors. Initially, we hope to give you historical capital spending on what we've done over the last since 1998. So on page 2, the historical capital spending is pretty self-explanatory. Going back to 1998, we spent $11.6 million rehabbing the treatment plant. This pretty much was the whole completion, the whole rehab, and the upgrading of the technology, systems, processing, all of the data and all of the equipment related to bringing it up to a state-of-the-art plant. With that, we replaced it for $11.6 instead of going to spending an easy $40 or $60 million completely building a new plant, which a lot of the communities have done in the area. I know that there was one built right over here within a short period of time. It's only a 2 MGD plant, and that was $7 million. So we're literally 15 times, the size of that plant. So you'd be talking several $1 million. Also, almost initially, because of the implementation of SCADA equipment, which stands for Supervisory, Controlled, and Data Acquisition, and through attrition of an early retirement, we were initially able to eliminate 3 or 4 positions right away. So there was a cost savings there as well. In 2003, we continued that with a $16 million upgrade. That included major pump replacement up at the water treatment plant. It also included raw water intake upgrades. We did high and low lift pumps up there. We did some water main valve replacement throughout the city, primarily in the Pawtuckaville section of the area, where we replaced some very large water mains. I believe we went West Meadow Road, about a 16-inch main. We also did the Wedge Street tank, which turned out very well and helped to alleviate some pressure issues up there, and also was instrumental in enhancing the fire protection. In the Beacon Street Pump Station, that was the last leg, so to speak, of the project that we did over there in Centerville. That helped us eliminate the old West 6th Street pump station over in Centerville, which I know the DPD has been trying to figure out what to do with that building for years, but we were able to take our pump out of there and also have backup pump station to the Stackpole Street going across the river from Centerville over to the Belvedere section area. The current project that we are in the last leg of is the $19 million 2007 loan order. That included a myriad of projects. That was some raw water intake station upgrades up there as well. We did some sodium hydroxide improvements up there. We installed a new 36-inch raw water redundant water main from the pump station up there to the plant. And that was very significant because since 1958 we had one main, one raw water main feeding the pump station and coming down to the treatment plant. Should anything happen to that, we would be out of water. So that was a very important improvement there. We also did some water treatment plant upgrades. We did some sodium bicarb, some filter beds. We did some initial work up there as well. We are currently about 80% done of a citywide commercial and industrial large meter replacement. All the meters that are 1.5 inches and above are being replaced. I believe the number is about 1,270, and as of today, I believe we're about 1,016. So that's an ongoing process. There are that certain percentage of people that it's difficult getting in and making the appointments, but we're still plugging away with that. And the last on that project is the 10th Street tank. That's a process that is going pretty well. We haven't really had any complaints up there, and it's been very, very smooth going so far. Caldwell are the contractors building that. With this, we also did some important river crossings. We did some slip pipe lining on Bridge Street. We did Lawrence Street, replacement of a main there. And we also worked with the state. We kind of piggybacked on a job out there on the Hunts Fall Bridge. We're replacing a 24-inch main there as well. It was very cost-effective to us. We got in with the contractor, and that was actually work that was added to this scope. But because of the financing and because of the money we have available, we were able to do that as well. So that pretty much was extra work in the scope. So the projected budget summaries from '98, we did the $46 million. 92% of that was SRF funded with a 2% interest. The other 8% is money that was either engineering services or was bonded. Yeah, in 1998, the project was completed on budget. The 2003 budget was completed $700,000 in the positive for us, and that had 0 change orders as well. We had no increase because of change orders. 2007, pretty much the same number, about $800,000 under budget. We had some extra work done with that as well, and again, no change orders. We are currently in the process, I believe we're going to get about $2.8 million in ARA funding. So the actual payback on that note of the $19 million is $16.2 million. That's the principal forgiveness. On page 7, we have the local comparison of water rates. These are just numbers that we took for a local to compare ourselves to 12 surrounding communities. As you can see, Lowell is the lowest. This is based on the independent, I believe it's Ty Sales does the study, 2010 water rate survey. And the Lowell rate is shown has been adjusted over the 2010 based on the 2011 rate increases. So we're still at number 12. Next one is just a comparison of the major cities, cities that compare in volume as well as some of them as far as the population or demand type of systems that they have. And of all the large municipal systems, we are the lowest out of the 13. Mass water rates, at this point, Lowell is ranked 251 out of a total of 274 water systems, public water systems in the Commonwealth. The average water rate statewide is $469 per year. Lowell is $248. The average water rate increase based from about the last 8 years, from 2002 to 2010, has been about 60%, if an increase. We've only increased it just about 40. The proposed projects, the $26 million, there's going to be, again, several of these projects are going to be, the vast majority of them are going to be improvements to the system. The raw water intake station, that's pretty much going to be architectural and structure work there. We have a lot of the building, I believe, is 1958, so we have a lot of structurally sound things that we need to take care of, I should say structurally unsound, that we need to take care of, as well as some work in what we call our wet well and some systems in there. The large diameter water main that we are planning and large valve replacement. As I mentioned earlier, we have the redundant main coming from the pump station to the plant. We now have plans on going from the plant to the system, to the distribution system. Right now we have the one 24-inch main that goes down, and we don't have any redundancy to, I believe it's almost down to the first intersection where Bonham Ave's in. So should we get a major break there, we could conceivably be out of water to downtown and feeding the rest of the city. A couple of years ago, we had a break there, and we had to install some very expensive, what they call line stops. So if we had this redundancy, this would be something we could avoid very quickly. Photovoltaic panels, solar panels, the installation, approximately 6,000 square feet. We're hoping that we are going to be getting some grant money for that. That is going to be a payback once money is sold back to the grid through deregulation rules. I guess that we can get, the number we're using is conservative 30 cents. And we're hearing that's about 55 cents. So we're looking at about $100,000 net gain once installed. More treatment facility upgrades. What we need to do there is we have some residuals across the street. Our wastewater goes into what they call sludge lagoons. We rehab 2 of them. There's a 3rd one that needs to be rehabbed. We are also hopeful that we can work with wastewater, send them some of our what they call super latent. It's not quite sludge. I know obviously they've done a lot of work down there, so that's part of the improvements there. And the residential meter replacement costs, we're planning on doing about half of them, about 13,000 of the approximately 26,000 meters. I believe that they were done in 1991. It was the last time Neptune came in and did them. They're old, a lot of inaccuracy. That's something that we need to do. That'll be very, very helpful with what they call a radio read system. You'll be able to get instantaneous reads periodically from the minute. It also gives you accurate reads if there's a stop meter, if there's anything tampering going on with meters. It's just something that can avoid estimates, and it's instantaneous reads. Stackpole Street Station. That station, again, was rehabbed, I believe, back in '89. That needs to be done over. That was designed primarily with the intention that there's a very large water main that years ago, the intent was to feed Tewksbury part of this water, so they had to create what they call a high service area. Our intent is to improve that system comparable to the one on Beacon Street, and we'll be able to eliminate that service area, and everybody in Belvedere should have adequate pressure. I don't know how many of you here live there, but I'm sure that some of you probably have PRVs up there, pressure reducing valves. We had to install about 400 of those because the pressure is too high for the residents, so we'll be able to eliminate that. Water main replacement in Centerville, Belvedere, and municipal interconnections. We have a hydraulic model. We do a study on fire flows and such, and we are planning on improving some large mains over in the Robinson School, McAuliffe School area to improve fire flows and pressure for the area, and also in Belvedere. The municipal interconnections, we are tied into surrounding towns that we can supply water to them, but they're not designed so they can, in case of emergency, give us water. Now, obviously, we're the largest suppliers, but Tewksbury, and possibly Borica would be able to give us minimal water for probably fire protection. The estimated cost, water main replacements, valve and hydrant installations, $10 million. Water treatment plant raw water intake station, $6 million. Photovoltaic, $4 million. Meter replacements are estimated at $5 million, for a total of $26 million. That does not include possible principal forgiveness or any other grant funding. We're hoping that we'll be able to get grant funding for solar panels. And with that, the estimated savings is the electricity buybacks its power at the increased rate. So once they're online, we'll be able to send back any power back to the grid, which from a formula we're using and what on average with square footage and what we use, it'd be approximately $100,000 a year in income for us. The residential meters, again, 13,000 accounts. They're not as, the loss of accuracy is not as dramatic or large as it is with the larger meters, so we're estimating that the increase in that would be about $100,000 a year as opposed to with the new meters approximately $600,000 with the large meter replacements. Pump rehab, we know that any pumps that are done over are always far more efficient with new design and impellers and what they call VFDs, variable frequency drives. So we should see an estimated savings of approximately another $1,500,000 a year. I'm sorry, $15,000 a year. Project financing, state revolving fund, this is low interest 2% loan. The principal forgiveness, because that the city of Lowell is an environmental justice community, and I guess that is based on the median household income, we're going to get approximately 5 to 10% off of the total $26 million. So that'll be another savings. The Mass DEP, again, may partially subsidize solar panels. That's what our consultants are looking into. It's all part of the green infrastructure components. Future funding. We are hearing that SRF programs are continuously being reduced. Supposedly next year, within the next couple of years, there's going to be less and less monies available, 25 to 35%. And it's becoming a more competitive process. As part of the Commonwealth capital application that we did in coordination with DPD, that's no longer accepted as the point system, which grades you on how high you go up in your application and how much funds you're going to get through the SRF. So that's no longer acceptable. In the Mass DEP, they will not be combining projects. An example of that is that there are certain projects that are applicable to SRF money. There are certain projects that are not. But in combining what they call your performance evaluation form, they still give you points for trying to improve or enhance your system. They're not going to do that any longer. They're only going to consider projects that are eligible for SRF funds. Project financing, FY 2013, July 2012, 1/2 rate, required rate. FY 2014, July 1st, 2013, 1/2 required rate increase. The project-related rate increase is 35 cents 100 cubic feet, or about 80 cents a week per average. The new rate will be $2.42, 2013. Lowell will move from one position from 251 to 250 out of 274 on the list, comparing other water rates across the state. And that's assuming a 7.5% increase that other communities have averaged over the last 8 years. So if they continue to raise the way they have historically, that's where we'll end up. We'd still be the lowest rate in the region. We'd still be in the lowest 5% by far. The improved efficiencies. Since FY04, through attrition and through some enhancements and improvements of the utility, we've eliminated 10 positions. We've saved approximately $650,000 a year in salaries and benefits. Electrical savings, we saw that almost immediately the first year, $250,000 because of the VFDs and our high efficiency pumps. Chemical savings, because we have been able to utilize and optimize the plant with our SCADA control and our equipment. And what we have there, everything is controlled from panels, from our flows to our sluice gates to all the processes, dosing. We've saved, on average, about $380,000 a year, and chemicals have gone up, I would say, a good 20% the last 8 to 10 years. The meter replacement, that's a conservative number. We're using, this is the large meter replacement project. We're hoping for at least another $500,000 in additional revenue from the larger meters. And again, that project will be done, we're hoping, within, we just did an extension for 140 days. So I'm certainly glad to answer any questions for you, anything that is more technical. Woodard and Curran is here.
Thank you. I think we need to open up the public hearing if the presentation's done. Anybody here wishing to speak in favor?
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the Lowell City Council, Mr. Manager, staff, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I wish to be recorded in favor of this. This presentation certainly has told you how much savings have been done, that the budget has been either on or under budget, and with no change orders, and I have every confidence in the water utility. I urge that the City Council unanimously pass this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Last call in favor? Hearing none, I'll now close that portion of the public hearing. Open up for opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to the council. I think Council Martin was first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, later in the agenda is ordinances to amend the rates. And I expect those would have to go to a public hearing at a later date.
That's correct.
So, I don't quite want to get into those at the moment. I do have some questions about the presentation. I do appreciate the materials. I think they were detailed enough so that we could understand them, but not too detailed to get a lawyer would get confused by the engineering. But I noticed in the 2003 improvements, there's raw water intake station upgrades. In 2007, the same thing. And then in this proposed, we're still also proposing raw water intake station upgrades. So that appears to be an ongoing issue. And so I have two questions related to that. Is this something that's always going to be an issue? And then second, I know in the flood in 2006, there was a lot of danger about losing the water service during that flood. And I know there was some pretty, I would say, heroic measures taken by people at the plant that did not happen. But any of these upgrades would prevent against something like that happening in the future?
The first issue, as far as ongoing, again, Council, the building was built in 1958. When we did the plant over, we improved the system. We had to go to a different chlorine dioxide system. So that was initially done. Then we did some piping work inside. We recently just did some more work to the sodium bicarb systems. We did some work, there's some structural work. So we had, I would say that it's not an ongoing saga, but it's certainly a building that can continuously be enhanced and improved. And as technology continues, these are improvements that we like to make. As far as the flood goes, there's a generator, power source up there that sits to the right-hand side of it. And during the flood, it almost breached. It came within actually inches of encroaching it. But we found out through research that all the cable and all the connections going to that power source are all waterproof. So as far as the level coming up that high, we wouldn't have been out of water anyway. We would have still had the power. The water would have had gotten up to the ramp into the pump station. And frankly, if it had reached that level and you took the hydraulic grid line, the plant would have been totally underwater. So it was...
So we've done what we can do.
It was what it was. It just, what's that?
We've done what we can do.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council Martin. Council Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Manager. Council Martin and I asked for this information, and thank you, very helpful. In 1998, we had a loan order for $11.6 million. In 2003, we had a loan order for $16 million. 2007, we had another loan order for $19 million, which comes to $46.6 million. What's before us this evening is a loan order for $26,200,000, which brings up the total over a 13-year span to $72,800,000, which is a lot of money. We're not voting on 26,000 tonight, we're voting on 26 million. So I would like to see this forwarded to the Finance Subcommittee for a thorough financial presentation by the manager, and let the subcommittee, we just got this report tonight, and let the manager present a presentation, PowerPoint presentation and so forth. And that's a form of a motion to send it to the Finance Subcommittee. Also, Mr. Manager, this increase, this loan order, would predicate a rate increase? It would?
In all likelihood, yes.
Okay.
We're estimating it at that 80 cents per week number that Mr. Lahiff mentioned. Hopefully, as we get further into it, we'll be able to decrease that.
Okay. This is your budget.
That's correct.
Fiscal year 2012.
That's correct.
On page 32. I know my colleagues don't have it with them, but I do. It says, the second paragraph, a small portion of the revenue comes from miscellaneous sources such as hookup fees and filling pools. The balance comes from rates and liens, which are also a form of rate revenue. Water rates were increased effective January 1st, 2011. This rate increase will be sufficient to sustain the fund in 2012 and well beyond. So why do we need a rate increase?
Without this, to pay for this work.
Well, this is your words in your budget. It says we
correct.
don't need a rate increase because we're well positioned.
Unless we do this work. If we do this work, we're going to need a rate increase.
Well, you must have knew we were going to do this work in July when you put this budget together. But anyways, I have a motion to forward this to the Finance Subcommittee for a complete
Second by
thorough
Councilman Donza.
process.
Any discussion? Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I want to know, through you to the Water Utilities Director, is any of this work federally mandated with the combined sewer overflow issue? Any of that mandated by the federal government to do any of this work?
In combination with the CSO project, no.
No,
But
no.
we do go by the Federal Clean Water Drinking Act, and all of our non-compliances and all of our NONs,
So
have
this
to be
work,
met, so.
so the work really technically isn't mandated. I want to know through you, Mr. Vice Mayor, to the city manager, what impact does the national downgrade and the bond rating affect the loan that we would vote on?
It really won't have, I don't see where it will have any impact on the city of Lowell. The city of Lowell is not going to be downgraded as a result of the national, the S&P decision. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it's very early after that downgrade to really analyze what's going to happen in the next year or 2 years, but ironically...
Because we can't predict that, right? We
Right.
can't predict
But
it.
Ironically, over the last couple of days, interest rates had fallen. S&P lowered its rating on U.S. debt, and the interest rate that the U.S. pays on its debt went down. So go figure that one.
I don't know that either, but what I do know is that it seems that more often than not, when we come before a city council meeting, there's always something in there for fees, fines, permits being raised, and this seems to be no different. but there is a motion before us to refer this to the Finance Subcommittee. And when we do, could we also figure out the cost of the increase in the water rates for the last 5 years? I know that we've spent money, you did outline that, but what are the figures of the cost of the increase in the water rates in the last 5 years? And the projection with this 2012 and 13, year 13, the fee increase, if that passes, add that to the mix as well. But we are in a time of uncertainty, and this country is in turmoil, and we don't know what our future's going to be. And here, coupled and paired with this bond, is also two increases for the water rate fees in the year 2013, which the city could be in a worse financial strait at that time, and yet you're asking us to increase that. And I can't project in 2013 what's going to happen, but I know that people are struggling right now. And here we are again appropriating a bond to try to increase the rates at the same time in the future. This is all too much. And this isn't a good time to be doing this. Not that there is a good time, but...
It's a good time. If I may, Councilor, we're not doing this to increase the rates. We're doing this to improve the water system of the city. And as far as a good time or a bad time, I don't know if there's ever a good time to do anything. The rates are low right now. We won't be borrowing this money right now, though. We'll be borrowing it next year. The state is in a position now where they're giving a certain amount of assistance that they may not be giving in the future. We do know that. We also know the construction prices are lower now than they will be when the economy gets better. Is there ever a really great time? I have to say that, I've been in this business now for 30 years, and I've never heard anyone say it's a good time to do anything. But there is no doubt about it that the city of Lowell is dependent upon, as a livable community, is dependent upon all the services that we provide, and water is a key part of that. All you had to do is see the impact that the MWRA communities felt just last year when they were without water for a week because they didn't have a system that was redundant, and they didn't have the certain parts of their system didn't work with the water system. But this is why we bring things to the council. If the council chooses to not move forward with this, that's why you're here. Recognize, however, that in all likelihood, these improvements will be needed at some point down the road if we're going to have a system that works for the benefit of the citizens of the city.
And what would you think if this bond rating passed at a public hearing, but yet the increases didn't pass?
If the increases didn't pass tonight, I think we all have to, the purpose for putting those on this meeting is so that there's awareness that these improvements do cost money. We're not trying to hide anything here. These improvements to the system do cost money, and we need to, we want to be right up front about that. Do we need those rate increases right now? No. They wouldn't have to go into effect until July 1st of next year at the earliest. So, and they may not be as large as we, conceivably they could probably wait, I don't know, maybe Mr. Moses wants to speak to this, but they could potentially wait beyond that. They just have to be a little bit larger if you wait longer. We're trying to, minimize that and smooth it out over time. But I'm willing to withdraw those rate increases tonight, and we'll just take that up in the spring of next year if we need them at that time. But there's no doubt about it that the improvements that were presented to you tonight are needed. They will make for a more efficient system. If we can change the way we meter the water, we can cut down on our costs in terms of payroll. We can be much more. We're probably losing revenue by systems that are antiquated. But again, this is. I have a responsibility as city manager to bring you my recommendation. My recommendation is that the city move forward with this. But you're the legislative body, and you have the right to make your decision.
And I have a responsibility, Mr. Manager, to my constituents. And it's one thing to bond 26 million, but to then say that the 26 million and initiating that will save money, and then all of a sudden saying, forget about the money we're supposed to generate, we're going to raise your fees. So give me one or the other, but don't say we're going to bond this to make things more efficient and save money, and on the other hand, I want to get a rate increase down into the year 2013 that might even be in worse fiscal times down there than it is now. So I'm not a mind reader to know how the economy is going to be, but
I
you're putting us in a bad spot is what really is happening.
I'm not intending to put you in a bad spot.
Well, I know, but it is. It appears that
way
way to my constituents.
Well,
and I have to be here to represent that they just can't take any more of it.
And I would just say, Counselor, again, this is your decision, but your constituents, I think, also will certainly expect that down the road, the water system that they have is one that works.
I think it's fine, 46.6 million, and I'm getting a good darn drink of water. It looks pretty good to me.
And 3 years from now, when it doesn't,
well, then we shall worry about it then.
well, then that's
what I say.
Thank you. Council Martin.
You know, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the motion. And I do appreciate the information tonight, but it is kind of cast with a broad brush. And, Mr. Manager, I appreciate the recommendation. We need to build redundancies into the system. I get all that. On the other hand, you know, we have meter replacement, $5 million that is potentially estimated to bring in $100,000 a year additional revenue. So that's, what, 50-year payback on that. I mean, is that, and now that's not to say the expenses are going to be saved too, and so that's not in here. So I think that's the type of thing that may deserve further discussion. As to the rates, you know, we have a memo from Mr. Moses in July 21st, when this first came up, that's, you know, very upfront. Says, you know, if this work is approved and started in 2012, the earliest we'll incur debt service will be 2013. We may not even need a rate increase then, but certainly one will be needed by 2014. Nevertheless, if we spread it across 2 years, you ease the impact. So I get all that. On the other hand, I appreciate Councilor Mercier's constituents, but those are our constituents too. And people are having a difficult time. And, you know, if there's not a need to raise rates now, then maybe we shouldn't be trying to do that. But I think the case needs to be made maybe in more detail. You know, what this work is, you know, why it's needed on top of the work that's already been done, and you know, and maybe take the rate increases as needed. Now, I know the votes are always there to vote for the project, and they're never there to vote for the increases. So I appreciate the information. People should know now, if they vote for this now, that this other vote's going to be needed later. But, you know, maybe things will be better a year from now. You know, people will have, you know, unemployment could be lower. And you're right, we need to have the service. I don't know there's any more valuable public health service than the water service. I mean, you know, when I was mayor during the flood, I was scared to death, you know, that a city this size could lose its water service. So, you know, so those are my comments. I appreciate the sentiments of the other speakers and the desire to get some more information, more thorough review at the subcommittee. So I'll support that motion.
Thank you. Councilman Dodson.
Yes, I do applaud the manager for bringing forth the rate increases that would be necessary. And just knowing that. It's important that if we vote to do this work, that we know it's going to cost a certain amount and that it'd be there to pay for it. I am, however, concerned that we have already spent $46 million on the system, and we're being asked to spend another $26 million, and then we have these rate increases. And as our colleague pointed out, in the budget, this wasn't planned. And again, I've advocated having a capital plan so that we know over the next 5 years what we need to do and what it's going to cost or at least projected to cost, so that we can plan on it. There are no surprises, and we know what will need to be done. I'm very concerned about the projected rate increases because we just had a large rate increase. This amounts, by my calculation, to another 17% rate increase combined that we'd have to ask our residents to pay. And I think that's a bit much in a short period of time. Some of my questions that I would have, that if they can't be answered now, maybe if it's referred to the Finance Subcommittee, could be answered then, is there are many projected savings in here, but I'm wondering if the projected debt service and the costs for that justify this rate increase takes that into account, or would the rates be lower given these savings? So I'm not sure if that plays into the calculations at all. And again, it can be answered at the subcommittee. I'm sure it's not that simple a question to answer. Right now, I'm inclined to oppose this in its current scope. I'd rather see smaller projects or increments that wouldn't require such a large rate increase in the next 2-3 years. We need to smooth out. There will be a constant maintenance and constant capital improvement at the plan. But we've done a lot in the last 12 years, and now can we smooth it out so we don't go have these huge valleys and troughs of lots of things being improved at great cost and then for maybe a decade of doing nothing. I'd rather it be more continuous and that the rate that we're charging our customers cover that. And again, it's planned. And that part of their rate goes to these capital improvements, that we don't have to necessarily increase rates every time we do a new project. So that's my thought on this. So as it stands right now, I'd be opposed to it, but I'd like to see the information come back and learn more about it, or maybe if the scope can be reduced, the rate increases could be less. And we know that eventually this work will have to be done. But I don't feel a sense of urgency to it. We'd like to have redundancies, but is it absolutely necessary in the next couple of years? We could probably get by. Yes, if a water main breaks, it could be a big problem, but if it doesn't, then it's not a problem. So it could go either way. Again, I thank the manager for bringing forth both sides of this picture so that we understand exactly what we're doing here.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to Councilor Mendonca's point about the capital plan, because I think it is important that when the report, I guess it seems, will be referred to a subcommittee, that we also have the priority ratings, so that if it is the case that we come back with a plan which only selects a few of the projects presented, that we have a better understanding of which really are most important and might realize the largest savings. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2008, we had a long debate on bonding money for the waste treatment plant, which was needed desperately, and that was a long, long debate. Many people from the neighborhoods were here to support it and so forth. That was for $35 million. That was for the entire plant. Since 2007 to the present, if this vote goes through, we're talking $45 million in 4 years. 72 million, almost 73 million over 13 years. So I think we have to take a long, calculated look at this whole issue, and many of my colleagues have indicated maybe you do this in bits and pieces. $26 million, I don't care how you cut it, is a lot of money. And that's the problem with Washington. They think trillions is nothing. And then look at the mess they're in. And we're in the mess with them. Now, the water problem, Mr. Manager, in the communities in the state of Massachusetts where millions of gallons was lost, that was human error. The wrong bolt was put on the clamp to secure that pipe. Human error. Human error can happen anywhere. But I'm happy that my colleagues agreed that this is going to the Finance Subcommittee meeting, and let's weigh it out. And like I said, it's not 26,000, it's 26 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. Just briefly, I concur with a lot of the comments made by previous speakers. Just for the meeting, Mr. Manager, presumably this will go to the Finance Subcommittee. Could you also provide us a comparison for median income for those communities that we compare it to? Because it is good to say that we're ranked at this point versus other communities, and it costs X amount of dollars in Lowell versus other communities, and it's a good comparison. But I think it'd be helpful to know, what is the median income in Lowell versus the median income in some of these other communities. I think it'd be helpful because I don't disagree with other speakers that with the uncertainty of so many things, including people on fixed income, what's happening to the IRAs, what's happening to Social Security and Medicare. People are nervous, and I happen to agree. You brought it in saying you want to spend this. This is how we have to pay it, and I frankly don't think that people can afford any more at this point. So I think it'd be helpful to get that information, and I think we'll have a good discussion. And I supported the other projects because I believe at a point in time the water system was in jeopardy, and if we didn't make some investments, we won many awards for water quality, but I think it was made clear that we hadn't made any investments similar to the wastewater treatment plant. Hadn't invested in that plant for years and years, and we were both facilities were disasters waiting to happen, and I think we have made some significant investments. I think water quality has improved, water pressure has improved, redundancy has brought a level of comfort to potential breaks. So we have made some significant investments, and rightfully so. So I agree with sending it to the Finance Subcommittee to have a thorough discussion, and so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Nothing further. We have a motion to refer to the Finance Subcommittee. We don't need a roll call, do we?
Voice vote?
I'd say
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Chair votes yes. Before we go back to the manager's portion, if we could go to unfinished business. The National Grid has a 20-foot conduit in Columbia Street. At our last meeting, it was referred to a public hearing. In order to properly advertise, if I could have a motion to refer it to a public hearing.
So move.
Second. Council Caulfield, all those in favor? Chair votes yes. If we could now go back to the city manager's portion. City manager responses to council motions and requests. Anything further? Councilor Murphy, I think, had a few.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to thank the administration for its response to staying on the issue of water, to the Halesbrook Greenway plan, and the number of different options as far as grant funding for that particular project. And I look forward to the updates on that in conjunction with the Tanner Street district that what had been brought up actually by Councilor Broderick earlier, because I think that would be a very beneficial project to those particular neighborhoods.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy, again?
Yeah, I had a response to a number of motions made on recycling, and it was suggested that those be referred to the Solid Waste and Recycling Advisory Committee to discuss the viability of some of those proposals. I think that if it does come back to the council, I'd like to see actual some suggested ordinance changes, because we did discuss this over a year ago, and rather than just have another subcommittee, environmental subcommittee, discussing potential proposals, that we actually have something in writing to be able to consider.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy?
And I would just, I don't know how willing the council will be, but to suspend the rules to address some of the communications from the meeting that I had missed previously.
Motion to suspend the rules, seconded by Councilman Mendonça. All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a response to the motion I had made to update us on a local and environmental purchasing policy that I think Mr. Marchand was working on, and I appreciate the progress that's been made on that. I would also request that we have an idea of where the money is being spent. In other words, that we look at the local component to that purchasing policy.
Next.
There's about 2 or 3 more. I'll just stick with the main one, I suppose, which would be on the response to the Fair Housing Commission. There was some discussion at the last meeting about the need for it, and I'm not sure that it was the report that was submitted, the 2011 impediments to fair housing choice, was particularly read carefully, because in it, it does outline really a number of issues that have been recurring, whether from 2001 or from 2006. The 2 main issues are really awareness of what actually constitutes a fair housing violation, which is obviously problematic in terms of being able to report something if you don't understand whether you're a tenant or whether you're a landlord, and whether you fully understand your responsibilities in accordance with that act. And the other is also speaks, I think, to the need for some kind of central commission, not necessarily, I think, as it was suggested, to replace any of the efforts that are being done by the nonprofits, but to coordinate them in such a way that you both increase the outreach to people so that there is some understanding of what constitutes a violation and what their rights are, but also so that there's an easier way to report a violation if it does occur, because the Massachusetts Commission on Discrimination Against Discrimination actually requires that you go into Boston, which can be onerous on those people who are most likely to be affected by the fair housing violations. And so that if you had a central commission, you could actually have an easier way in a identifiable place for people to actually report and refer any potential complaints. So I think maybe not referring it to a housing subcommittee, but referring it back to the city manager to relook at, or at least come back with some kind of plan. It was noted in that report that the Greater Boston agency was going to handle some of that work. But it was also noted that they had applied for a grant and hadn't received it. And so the question then is, what do you do if they apply again and still haven't received that funding? Rather than wait, till 2016 to get another report back saying that we haven't really figured out how to advance outreach, as well as really make sure that there is an identifiable place to register a complaint. the same was true of the CMAA, which is a community where just back in 2008 there was an actual violation found and a settlement against a property over on Pine Street. They applied for a grant but weren't able to actually receive one. So and the same was also true of CTI, who had a fair housing advocate, but don't now because of the lack of federal funding. So I think there should be some kind of plan in place in the case that these proposals fall through, so that we're not coming back here in 5 years still trying to figure out the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further? Councilman Mendoza?
Motion to approve the communications.
Yeah, well, I was just, Councilor Murphy mentioned a couple of referrals. I just wondered if you wanted that in the form of a motion, or?
That referral was really just back to the administration to update the response. There was a referral of I've lost myself now. There was a referral of 3 motions, 2 from this packet and 1 from the previous week to the Economic Development Subcommittee on TIF policy and TIF guidelines, and mainly in this week's report the reinvestment of new growth due to the TIF agreements. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor? Aye, chair votes yes. Councilor Elliott.
I had a question on one of the motions. Councilor Murphy filed a response relative to the Green Communities Grant funding. I don't know whether he spoke on that or not. I couldn't follow all the motions that he filed. But this one, if he hasn't, I just had a question on, in the report it indicates that half of the $500,000 that we received for the Green Energies Grant was allocated to Amoresco. We knew that. The other $245,927 went to the energy service contract. The other $245,927 was allocated to a grant program, and apparently, according to this, the grant performance period ends by 2011. Pardon me, and they have to be spent to date. But unfortunately, there's been some outreach, and there's been no one that was interested in applying to expend this $246,000. So the memo does go on a little bit further. I don't understand why not. I do see this, could be a positive thing that the developer is just moving forward with these energy improvements. They don't need the training. But putting that aside, the next paragraph indicates that an RFQ is going out to be issued by the purchasing department for the 245.6. It doesn't really state. And that's going to be for an architect to do design for these windows in here. Are we saying we're going to spend just to prepare the big documents? The $250,000 is just for that, or is that for the design, preparation of the bid, and installation?
The latter.
Just it's for all 3?
It's for all.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. And just one other question. We won't have to go back and amend the grant application to Department of Office of Energy Resources?
No, I'm looking.
You do that to the department? Okay.
Right.
Because I know once you submit an application and a work plan, it typically needs to be amended if you're going to deviate from the plan. Right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. We have a motion to accept and place on file. One more, Councilor Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, making you work hard tonight. The last one was just about a motion I had made on the tree ordinance that we do have here in the city. And one of the issues I think that came up in the Lower Highlands was that they were kind of surprised by the removal of a tree, which is allowed under the ordinance if it's an emergency situation. In the response, there was a detailed plan of applying for grants, perhaps in 2 cycles, to be able to begin work on an urban forestry plan. Just by way of suggestion, we may be able to amend that hearing process to also, when we do have, it's not an emergency situation, but we're removing trees, that in that hearing process, there also be presented a proposed plan on how we intend to replace those trees according to the ordinance. So that then people have some input to give on where they're actually going to be placed. Then we can move in a way that's more incremental at trying to achieve the goal of the ordinance. In the same way that where it's not required that we have a hearing to remove something that's in an emergency situation, we could possibly have a hearing after the fact to give people in the area that input and begin to work away at that plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. We have a motion to accept and place on file, seconded by Councilman Mendonça. All those in favor? Chair votes yes. Next topic under City Manager's communication from City Manager request approval of out-of-state travel. We have 2. Do motion to take them together by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Any discussion? Roll call. Motion to approve. Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Mercier. Roll call, please.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott? Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
7 yeas, 2 absent.
Thank you. Next order of business is a vote to accept sections 21, 22, and 23 as provided in section 21A of Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended. First reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council, vote accepting sections 21, 22, and 23 as provided in section 21A of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended. Whereas sections 21, 22, and 23, in accordance with section 21A of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended, authorizes the city to engage in the process of changing health benefits under sections 21, 22, and 23 for all other purposes provided under said sections. And whereas the city manager is recommending the acceptance of sections 21, 22, and 23 of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended, whereas a copy of sections 21, 22, and 23 of Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended, is here to attached marked A, and whereas the City Council pursuant to Council Rule 28 is required to hold a public hearing at least 1 week prior to this vote. Now, therefore, it is voted by a majority vote of the City Council as follows, that the City of Lowell, acting through its City Council, hereby accepts the provisions of sections 21, 22, and 23 of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended, in accordance with Section 21A, for the purpose of authorizing the city to engage in the process of changing health benefits under sections 21, 22, and 23, and for all other purposes provided under said sections. And this is on to send to a public hearing.
Move
Motion by Councilor
Motion
Elliott,
to send
seconded
to
by
public
Councilor Dakota. Roll call, please.
For public hearing for when?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The 23rd.
23rd.
For the 23rd, September, I'm sorry,
Okay,
August
we need to know the
23rd.
dates. August 23rd.
August 23rd, next meeting, 2 weeks. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you. I do have some concern about this because as part of Section 21, it does provide for regulations to be issued by the Department of Administration and Finance. And all that we have so far is a draft of those regulations. We don't know we don't have emergency regulations, we don't have the final regulations. And so the concern there is that people don't fully understand how it is that the law will be practically implemented. because there still are some legal questions around there, I think. Beyond that, I would like, some kind of response to a motion that I made back in November, which was passed here unanimously, to set some guidelines in place, or at least look at guidelines with the council on how we might further provide for some protections against those most vulnerable here. There are, in this law, there are some provisions to protect retirees and others on lower incomes, but that is really mostly in the first year. Then there are less and less protections in the subsequent years. So to look at whether or not the council might provide some additional guidelines beyond the regulations that have yet to be issued, so that we are really implementing this in a way that makes sense and reflects the desire of the community, both to preserve the level of care for people who have worked for the city for so long, while at the same time also providing for the preservation of jobs and the health care for now and the future.
Okay. Is making that a form of a motion?
Well, I guess the motion would be to, or through you, Mr. Chair, to the administration, when do we expect regulations to come from the state so that we do have that full understanding of?
My understanding is that they're due out any day. The goal of, and I think I spoke to this at the last council meeting, our goal was to get this, the ball rolling on this as quickly as possible so that we could enter into a period of negotiations with our unions to make changes to our health care program in a way that maximizes the input that they provide us. At the same time, giving us an opportunity to make the savings that this legislation is intended to make so that we can preserve jobs, so that we can improve employee compensation, and at the end of it all, really save the taxpayers money. And I think the legislation, which has been heartily endorsed by, obviously by the municipal organizations and the municipalities, but also by all of the unions in the state, we want to be able to work cooperatively. We've already met with the Insurance Advisory Committee. I've already scheduled a meeting for next week, an informal meeting with the coalition that we met with last spring and worked so successfully with. I'm not sure if the teachers union has been notified of that meeting yet, because they did not participate cooperatively with us last year in negotiating an agreement that saved us a considerable sum of money. But we want to be able to start this ball rolling so that we're not up against the 11th hour and we have no choice but to either avoid saving the taxpayers' money or just moving quickly to something that the unions don't have an opportunity to really negotiate as well as we'd like them to be able to negotiate with us. So that was the reason for moving forward with this at this point, so that we're not up against the wall in terms of what we can achieve. With regards to the parameters of what we're going to be doing, I mean, that's part of the whole collective bargaining process. It's difficult to put that out in this forum and still negotiate successfully with our unions to the benefit of obviously the city and negotiate in good faith with our unions. So that was, I understand that motion was passed, and I've wrestled with how to respond to that fully and completely. As I said, we were successful in negotiating with our unions last year, and they were very pleased with the result. And our goal is to do the same thing this year, but to do it through the process that has been endorsed by management and labor here in the Commonwealth.
Well, I think there are still things to be worked out as far as how this law will be implemented, though. You know, there's a public employee committee that hasn't been set up, really.
It isn't set up until the legislation is adopted.
Right, and it is a significant authority that we, as a council, have to accept here locally to be able for you to make changes. And so I don't think that, you know, putting guidelines in place on that authority that we're transferring here from the council to yourself, not signaling out you as a manager, but any manager. I don't think that that's outside of our purview.
I guess I would, one way of responding to it would be for me to simply take the legislation and repeat that back in terms of the parameters of changes, that it would be consistent with the intent of the legislation, so that it would mirror, at a minimum, the group insurance commission plans at the state level. I will note that, just as a sidelight, that the retirees have already given me their representative. We are required to notify all of the unions, which I have done. I was also required to, well in advance. Really, I only had to do it 5 days ahead of the vote. I actually did it the last week to let them know that this meeting was taking place, that there'd be likely be a public hearing on the 23rd, and that there'd likely be a vote on the 13th. And part of that is to notify the State Retirees Association. They've already contacted me and given me the name of their representative to that public employees group. So, and I was already approached, as I said, by the unions wanting to meet next week because they want to get this ball rolling as well.
Well, as long as the regulations are going to be coming back to us before we approve any kind of adoption of this local statute, then that's fine by me. But if we move before there's any kind of regulations in place, I don't think that makes sense, because we won't have a full understanding of what's taking place.
I understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Mercia.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the city manager. So are we setting up a public hearing before legislation is adopted, or?
The legislation has been adopted, and just the final the regulations are in the state of promulgation and adoption, and likely there'll be some temporary regulations and then final regulations.
Well, are we going to have clear language before we set up this public hearing? I'd like to look at that before we get into a public hearing and vote. I don't want to do this in reverse. You understand that?
I understand.
All right.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
I'm going to support sending this to the public hearing. We did have this discussion last week, and while it's not an emergency, the manager did indicate that he doesn't want to wait till that 30-day window to sit and meet with the unions to go over what the process is going to be. This is the single most important piece of legislation that it was passed, in my opinion, last year. And all communities are behind it, and there's no need to delay it. We have to adopt it and initiate the process. Regulations will come down, and as you mentioned, they'll be temporary, and then they'll be revised to be permanent. So I'm going to support sending it to a public hearing now because we're talking not hundreds or thousands, we're talking millions in savings, which is desperately needed here, and it's a better process. It's a better process for everyone. So,
thank you, Mr. Manager.
If I could respond to Councilor Elliott, I think, and I appreciate the support of moving this to a public hearing, because it is something that's going to save us millions of dollars, which will allow us to provide services to people, for the taxpayers. And if there are issues that arise between now and the 23rd with regards to the regulations, there's nothing that can prevent us from putting it off again. But let's keep the ball rolling in terms of making this happen.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I imagine if I ask for suspension of the rules, I'll be banged out of order. This is what we have going to a public hearing, August 23rd?
That's correct.
The verbiage, the language that I have in my hand.
That's correct.
And that's what we should be voting on. We shouldn't be amending anything that's in this document. That's what we're going to be...
That's essentially, yes. This is just moving the adoption to a public hearing.
Right.
It's just a request to move that. There may be some additional language that we come in with, but it's moving the topic of accepting that provision of the general laws to public hearing.
But you can't change, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Manager? You can't change in the middle of the stream here. This is what we're going with.
I didn't say we were.
No, but I think it was requested that we should. And that's not the way the game works. I have this document, that's what I'm going to go and vote with. And I agree with you.
There's a motion.
In 1999, the health insurance was $13 million. What is it now?
39.
Simple answer to the question.
Thank you. There's a motion to refer to a public hearing. It was seconded.
Roll call.
Councilor Murphy, he had his hand up.
Yes, the request I was making was to make sure that we had the verbiage of the regulations before taking a vote at the public hearing. Thank you.
And if I may, the public hearing is just the public hearing. The actual vote will not take place until September 13th.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Next order of business under City Manager's portion is the order of taking and acceptance of various streets. First reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council. Order of taking and acceptance of various streets to take by eminent domain and fee certain parcels of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of the following named streets and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Portion of 17th Street, Eparis Drive, Elger Drive, and Ionian Circle. Be it ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the City of Lowell, by right of eminent domain, pursuant to the applicable provisions of the Mass General Laws, Chapter 79, and any and every other power granted or implied, hereby takes for itself by eminent domain for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of the following streets, portions of 17th Street, Eparis Drive, Elger Drive, and Ionian Circle, as shown on Appendix C, and other municipal purposes associated therewith. The City of Lowell does hereby take, under the provisions of said Chapter 79 of the general laws, and of all other general or special laws thereto, enabling all of the land hereafter described, including all trees and structures located thereon, situated in the City of Lowell, County of Middlesex, all of said land being taken in fee simple for the supposed abutting owners of said streets as listed in Appendix B, accepting from the rights herein taken all easements for wires, pipes, drains, retention basins, conduits, poles, and other appurtenances for the conveyance of water, sewage, gas, oil, and electricity, and for telephone communication now lawfully in or upon said premises hereby taken, in all lawful rights of the public to use those parts of the public way or ways in the City of Lowell which are included in the foregoing description. The legal descriptions of the layout and description of each street is hereto attached and marked Appendix A. The aforesaid takings are shown on separate plans and on file in the office of the city engineer, copies of which are attached hereto marked Exhibit C. It is further ordered that as compensation in full for all damages suffered by or caused to the owner of the said parcel of land as hereunder identified, the sums hereby awarded for such damages incurred by reason of the taking herein of a fee of the said parcels, reserving the right to amend the award at any time prior to the payment thereof by reason of a change of ownership or for other good cause shown. Said owners or abutters to the streets, and the total award of damages for taking are as follows: $1 to the abutting owners as listed in Appendix B. It is further ordered that and voted that after public hearing wherein the council determined that public convenience and necessity warranted acceptance, that said streets are as listed in paragraph 1 as laid out and constructed by and hereby are accepted as public ways in the city of Lowell under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 82, as amended, and under the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 243-13. It is further ordered that a copy of the order with attachments be recorded forthwith in the Middlesex North Registry of Deeds and the land registration section thereof, if applicable. It is further ordered that a total sum of $101 for the takings herein of a fee in of said parcels of land for all damages caused in connection with such taking, plus the cost of title examination, appraisals, tax adjustments, recordings, and other charges related thereto, be charged against the appropriation entitled Department of Public Ways Improvements, Highways, Sidewalks, 04009 1755 88503. And this is to be referred to a public hearing September 13th.
So move.
So move, Counsel Elliott, second by Counsel Mendonça. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Counsel Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wondering, are we also taking portions of Beacon Street, Varnum Avenue, and Corinthian Drive? Because it seems that we are, and it's not included in it.
Madam Solicitor?
Because in the back, it's talking about portions of making compensation to people, and it's got their addresses as Varnum Avenue, Beacon, and Corinthian Drive, so.
Right,
I think these roads intersect with, and so the people who have frontage on those also have side lots that are on the
Is that
sides
what it
of
is?
those. Yes.
We don't have to.
Right, the only streets are those that are specifically listed in the order of
So you
taking.
don't have to include
No.
the others?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Public
Counsel.
hearing.
Counsel Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, there's some growing anxiety, I think, among residents about this whole issue of unaccepted public streets that I'd like to kind of nip in the bud if we could. I mean, we all get approached by people, can we get our street paved? And we bring that request forward, and given the number of unaccepted streets, that's often the answer. There's no Chapter 90 money available because it's an unaccepted street. So now, we're starting to see requests, okay, how do we get our street accepted as a way to maybe move up that paving list? I've gotten those requests. And people are getting anxious that, that's going to be an issue when they go to sell their house, that the street's not accepted, which I don't think is the case. But I think, given all the discussion we've had here, and I'll be the first one to admit I've been driving part of it, is that, we need to have an answer for people as to how it can be that this street's not accepted. And I think we need a better plan to accept streets than having the engineers have to go out and engineer every unaccepted street in the city. I just don't think that's a practical approach, and I think we need to give some thought to maybe special legislation or something that will allow us to accept a greater number of streets without having to incur the engineering expense. If a street's been here built for 50, 60, 70 years, it's maintained as a public way, it's plowed as a public way. I don't see why any reason, why it shouldn't be a public way.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
I think we had this discussion at a recent council meeting regarding this issue of how long it would take to accept all the streets, the process that would go through. And it is a very lengthy process. We're trying to, again, this is an accumulation of years of neglect that the city did not deal with this problem. We're trying to bang these out as quickly as possible. At the same time, we're looking for some other options. I've asked the city engineer, and I'm going to be working with the law department and some other communities to see what other options there are for us out there. Because I couldn't agree more that it's a very long process. We can't use Chapter 90 money on these roads. We get shortchanged Chapter 90 money to the tune of about $3,800 per mile. But obviously, there has to be a way to do it, but at the same time, there has to be this process. If we would try to circumvent this process, which we may be able to do in some way, we just haven't been able to come up with that solution yet, I'm sure the state is going to be concerned that everyone's going to be circumventing the appropriate procedures. But we are working on that, and hopefully we'll have an answer for you at some point in the very near future.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and, you know, these streets for, you know, maybe not 17th, but the rest of them they're relatively recent subdivision, you know, with
That's right.
full engineered definitive subdivision plan and road, and some of these others aren't going to have that. You know, some of them predate the subdivision control law, I'm sure.
Right. That's why we're banging out the ones that we can do quickly to
Right.
get that money in as quickly as we can. And then, you know, the other ones we haven't ignored, we're just taking a little bit more time. It's going to take a little bit more time to get that work done, unless we can expedite the process in some way and we are exploring that.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate that, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you.
Councilor
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. If I could just add a point of information into the discussion here, and I appreciate the fact that these streets are being accepted and go into a public hearing, and Councilor Mendonça and I asked the manager, please, Mr. Manager, try to put as many as you can on each year, and I see that you're doing that. But there are 1,191 streets in the city. 513, or 43%, are unaccepted. 678, or 57%, are accepted, or 67.5 miles are unaccepted, and 170.7 miles are accepted. Now, I'm going to do this in a nutshell very quickly because it is a very lengthy procedure for our engineers to put this on the agenda, and as tonight we get 3 streets and a portion of another. So the acceptance is quite lengthy. It means checking the deeds of all lots on the street, the grade, the line of intersecting and adjoining streets, the location of all bounds and benchmarks, the study of all known angles, surveying the streets, locating and measuring all buildings, walks, walls, fences, and stone bounds, the dimensions and elevations, and all angles. And it was noted that depending on the size of the street and the available information, it takes 3 men 3 days to do that. So it's quite lengthy, and I just wanted people to know that. Thank you. So Councilor Martin does have a valid point. If we could do this in bulk form somehow, but it's quite lengthy. And
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Elliott.
I just want to follow up. I think Councilor Martin raises a good point, as well as the manager. It's kind of a catch-22. We don't get credit through the distribution formula for those streets that aren't accepted, and those typically are the streets that certainly could use Chapter 90 money, but we can't use it on them. So maybe it's working with, you know, Mass Highway through either regulations or, you know, here we go again. Maybe it's, you know, a home rule petition to find some exemption for communities that have older streets and certainly don't have the resources to accept them all and not be able to use, you know, Chapter 90 money on them. So I know you're working on it, and your hands are almost tied. You know what you have to do. Never have enough resources to do them in the timely manner or in a manner to, you know, to address the problem. But no easy solution. But, you know, maybe it's a home rule petition. Maybe it's you know, to provide some redress on communities like Lowell. And I understand all the communities in Massachusetts are going to say, well, look, we're in the same problem. So.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
We have a motion to refer for a public hearing on September 13th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Next order of business is an ordinance amend zoning regarding frontage. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council. An ordinance amending Code of City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 290, thereof entitled Zoning, by amending Section 5.1, Table of Dimensional Requirements, and by inserting a new subsection 5.1.1, open parens 7, close parens, Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. Code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, herein called the Code, adopted by the City Council on December 23rd, 2008, as amended, is hereby further amended with respect to Chapter 290 entitled Zoning, adopted December 7, 2004, as amended as follows. 1, by placing Section 5.1 Table of Dimensional Requirements with the version attached here to and marked Exhibit A. 2, by inserting a new subsection 5.1.1, open parenthesis 7, close parenthesis, as follows. 5.1.1, open parenthesis 7, close parenthesis, is in the SSF, SMF, SMU, TSF, TTF, TMF, TMU, USF, UMF, and UMU zoning districts, the minimum frontage required for residential uses may be reduced by as much as 15 feet below the minimums listed in the table of dimensional regulations with a special permit issued by the Lowell Planning Board if the Planning Board finds that the proposed development satisfies the criteria established in Section 13.3.2A. The Planning Board shall consider the nature of the proposed development on the lot as well as the nature of the lot or proposed lot before granting a special permit under this Section 5.1.17. The Planning Board prior shall not grant a special permit under this section 5.1.17 prior to the receipt of written design review comments from the Department of Planning and Development or 45 calendar days following the termination of the public hearing, except in cases where the project is subject to the review and approval of the Lowell Historic Board. This ordinance shall take effect upon the passage in accordance with section 1.7 of the Lowell zoning ordinance and the provisions of chapter 43 and 40A of the General Laws of Massachusetts, approved as to form. Christine P. O'Connor, City Solicitor. Second reading with no objection as to title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council ordinance, an ordinance amending Code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by amending Section 5.1 Table of Dimensional Regulations and by inserting a new subsection 5.1.17. And this is on for a referral to a public hearing. The recommendation is September 27th.
Yeah, refer to the planning board as well.
And to have a joint hearing with the planning board.
Second.
Second, Council Mercia moves, second by Council Elliott. All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Next, order of taking for permanent and temporary easements related to construction and improving sidewalks related to the McAuliffe and Robinson schools.
Motion to waive full reading.
Second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, City Council, order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. And second reading, if no objections, by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, City Council, order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. And discussion, Council Elliott.
Just a quick question. All this work is indicates in the order of taking is going to be done by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so there's no cost to the city.
Is this Blossom Street?
Yeah, Blossom Street, roll call.
Oh,
Mr. Mayor, you have to roll call on that?
yes, roll call.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Next order of business is order of taking for permanent and temporary easements related to construction and improving sidewalks related to the McAuliffe and Robinson schools.
Question.
Motion to waive full reading?
Yes.
Second, thank you. First reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council, order of taking, to take by eminent domain permanent and temporary easements in certain parcels of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, in furtherance of sidewalk improvements, etc., related to McAuliffe Elementary and Robinson Middle Schools. Second reading by title, with no objection, by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council, order of taking, to take by... Okay. In furtherance of sidewalk improvements, etc., related to McAuliffe Elementary and Robinson Middle Schools, and if we could take 12 and 13 together, as they're related. Motion to waive full reading, Council Martin, second by Council Murphy. First reading, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council. Vote authorizing the city manager to execute any and all documents pertaining to the sidewalk construction project in related order of taking for permanent and temporary easements at McAuliffe Elementary and Robinson Middle Schools. With no objection, second reading by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council. Vote authorizing the city manager to execute any and all documents pertaining to the sidewalk construction project in related order of taking for permanent and temporary easements at McAuliffe Elementary and Robinson Middle School.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question through you to the manager. A couple of years ago, I filed a motion to install a crosswalk on Beacon Street to the McAuliffe School to make it safer for the children. Is this part of the...
Yes, as they do the sidewalks, they'll put the curb cut in to allow that.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Anything further? Roll call. Councilman Johnson.
Just a quick question, maybe a dumb question, but we seem to be taking a majority of these parcels from ourselves.
That's
City of
correct.
Lowell is the owner?
That's correct.
Okay.
Roll call.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo? 8 yeas, 1 absent.
Next order of business, revocation of order, 51 Nottingham Street. Motion to waive full reading. Council Elliott, second by Council Martin. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council, revocation of order, property 51 Nottingham Street, Lowell, Mass. Owner, Nottingham State Realty Corp., 15 Leverett Street, Lowell, Mass. 01851. Second reading by, with no objection, second reading by title. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council, revocation of order, property 51 Nottingham Street, Lowell, Mass. Owner, Nottingham Street Realty Corp., 15 Leverett Street, Lowell, Mass. 01851. Any questions? Councilor Caulfield.
Yes. Through you to the manager, Mr. Mayor. Who is going to pay for this demolition, Mr. Manager?
I don't believe the agreement is, Mr. Bakey, your solicitor?
Taking it off.
They have more. I
hope
believe
the
the issue
owner.
is going to be, go ahead.
The property isn't going to be demolished.
It is not going to be demolished. It's going to be
not gonna be
renovated.
The-
It's good- It is, right.
The landlord is coming forward to make agreements to
That's correct.
upgrade the property.
That's correct.
Any further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo? 8 yeas, 1 absent.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Mayor, on that last vote, do we have a time frame for this landlord to come up with the regulations we're looking for?
Right, the first timeline consists of, I think, 30 days to remove the dumpsters and clean up the property. Then there'll be hopefully a continual progress of work to get the property back up to
And if he
code.
doesn't adhere,
That's right.
doesn't adhere, there has to be some sort of deadline. We have to draw a line in the sand, because I've heard this many, many times before, that they promise you the world and they end up doing nothing.
Yeah, this one also is a little bit unique in the sense that I think there's a subsidiary finding that some of the structural problems with the building really were not as severe as first thought. And so there is a list of work that needs to be done on the property that has been defined, and that's been adopted as part of the settlement.
Okay, so our building inspectors, building department gonna keep a close eye on this? All right.
Next order of business, 15 and 16 on the agenda, ordinance amend Chapter 272-86, metered service water. The manager has indicated that he'd like to withdraw those. Motion, Council Mercia, seconded Council Mendonça. All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes. All right. Next item on the agenda is subcommittee meeting, subcommittee report. Council Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Subcommittee convened a meeting this evening at 5:30, and present with my colleagues, Councilor Frankie Dakota, Councilor Rodney Elliott, and in attendance was Carol McCarthy, Anne Marie Page and Bob Page, Elliot Filoso, an intern lawyer with the City of Lowell, Manager Lynch, Victoria Woodley, librarian, Paula Memorial Library, Solicitor Chris O'Connor, Councilor Rita Mercier, Councilor Joseph Mendonça, Councilor Bill Martin, Councilor Patrick Murphy, Deputy Superintendent of Police Deborah Friegel, Tom Moses, Henry Marchand, and it was an excellent meeting. We recessed. We didn't come up with anything that's cast in stone. We're going to have another meeting in 2 weeks at 5 p.m. Tuesday evening. I believe that's August 23rd. And what transpired at the meeting is Councilor Elliott presented a motion for the solicitor to draft an ordinance to create safety zones throughout the city, playgrounds, libraries, schools, etc., and that ordinance mirrors the New Bedford ordinance. The vote was 2 yeas, 1 nay, Councilor Dakota in the negative, and then the second motion Councilor Elliott brought forward was to draft a home rule petition to the legislature pertaining to level 3 sex offenders. That was unanimously supported. The issue before us is how do you create an ordinance that we can hang our hat on and also make sure we're not in violation of the First Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause, as well as several sections of the Massachusetts State Constitution. Somerset is a small community with 18,000 people. New Bedford, Massachusetts is approximately 80,000 people. I called both those communities yesterday and today, and I could not get a definitive answer from their law department. But people at both city halls indicated that the ordinance that they haven't had any challenges. It's working fine, and the police department is working with the ordinance. I also brought forward a motion. The solicitor brought forward recommendations, and I asked for the solicitor also put it in a form of a ordinance with verbiage that would indicate, I'll read a few to you. A level 3 sex offender must, upon entering the library, check in with the front desk. Level 3 sex offender will be notified that upon receiving a restricted library card, both their parole board and our probation officers, if applicable, will be notified of the status, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, one of the things that I liked, the recommendation was to put relocating a school resource officer to the library when students are out of school or on vacation. I assure my colleagues that this subcommittee will not rush to judgment, and we will have many meetings, and we will come up with something that I think the library and the council and the residents would be happy with. We have to come up with something to address an issue that many communities have come up with an ordinance. And since January of this year, there's been 83 incidents at the library. 83. That's 10 a month. That's people being noisy, ripping pages out of books. But out of those 83 incidents, there were 2 that involved a sex offender. Too many. So I assure the council that the subcommittee will work diligently and come up with something that we'll bring forward. And the city solicitor is working hard to draft these two ordinances to come up with something that we can all live with. But rest assured, we just can't come up with nothing. So that's the report, and if my colleagues like to weigh in, I would like to have them to do so.
Anyone? Okay. Motion to accept as a report of progress. Councilor Rita Mercier, seconds, and Councilor Mendoza. All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Next order of business is the wire inspector reports. And we have, I believe, 7 reports regarding National Grid pole locations. And if it's a wish of the council, we take them all together.
Yeah, take it all together.
Council, like, no, on the wire inspector.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, refer to the wire inspector.
These are just to, we need a motion to accept and adopt the wire inspector orders. Councilor Martin, motion, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Under general petitions, we have a petition by Attorney James Flood for Kaufman Realty, Inc., Walgreens, requests a drainage easement on the property adjacent to Walgreens site.
Mr. Mayor, I'm requesting a roll call on that petition.
Certainly. Anyone else want to be heard on it? Councilor Mendoza?
Well, having a previous discussion on unaccepted streets, I assume that when and if we get a new Edward Street, that all the engineering will be done so that it would be recorded as an accepted street.
Right, everything now that we get that's for new streets, new subdivisions and the like, we make sure that it's ready to go and accepted.
And this would be for drainage only from the public way, not from the adjoining development. I mean, that's what I'm reading anyway.
I believe that is the case, Counselor, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Obviously, before an actual vote comes before you in response to this petition, we'll have that answer for you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. No, Mr. Baker answered my question. I'm sure that this is just the initial petition. I just want to see what the impact of that drainage is and where it's going. I'm presuming it's on, well, it'll be city. We've already abandoned the street, so it's got to be on the soccer land. So, thank you.
Thank you. It does say, in order to handle the drainage from the new Edward Street to be constructed, so I think that's a safe assumption, but this is just to, we need to, a motion to refer this to the engineering and law department for a proper vote. Councilor Mendoza, seconded by Councilor Dakota, and we want a roll call.
Yes, most definitely.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
No.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
No.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
6 yeas, 2 noes, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Yes,
may I ask a question through you to the city manager? Mr. Manager, if a new developer comes along to take and make a new development area, it's their responsibility to make sure that that street is accepted from now on?
That's correct.
And at their expense as well?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And frankly, I think that's always been the case in the past. It's just it was never followed through in the appropriate way.
And they do post bonds in the city when they do the development work?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Next order of business, C&F Realty Trust, Arthur Faneros, Super's Pizza Shop, requests new overhanging awning at 94 University Avenue. Need a motion to refer to the Law Department for a proper vote. Made by Councilor Mendoza, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Next is 2 claims for property damage. It was the wish of the council would take them together.
Yes.
And motion to refer to the Law Department
Mhm.
by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Now we have the motion section. Motion by Councilor Caulfield. Request city manager have building department inspect porches neighborhood by neighborhood on multi-family dwellings. Second by Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I visited the Liberty Street address, and if you can imagine sitting out on the second floor of a porch, enjoying the scenery of the weather, and the entire floor gives way from underneath you. And I went up and looked at those porches, and to indicate that they were a disgrace is putting it mildly. Either they didn't get a permit, or whoever inspected them had blinders on, and these porches were built probably 10 years ago, Mr. Manager. Whoever built them didn't graduate from the trade school, because the carpentry on them was absolutely atrocious. No hangers for the floor joists, nailed in to the receiving floor joists, and they just went whew. And I talked to Robert Masilio, and he indicated that the landlord is going to dismantle all the porches. So there won't be any porches at all. That'd be the cheap way out, I imagine. Not repair them, not rebuild them. But what brought attention to this issue, I have driven by that building many, many times. Never gave those porches a second look. But there's other multifamily buildings throughout the city that I have constantly looked at. I said, that porch is ready to fall down. Well, one did fall down, and I didn't think it would. So what the motion is to go around and inspect. I know there's only so many people to inspect. But maybe you can bring in some temporary help, Mr. Manager. But I am concerned about the welfare and safety of the people in these multifamily homes who are out on a porch, and their porch gives out. It's not fair, and I think it's putting the city into a liability situation. So if we get out there and say we're going to start inspecting the Lower Highlands and go from the Lower Highlands to Lower Centerville to Lower Belvedere, it's going to put these landlords who own these buildings on notice. You better start fixing them, because we're coming after you. And what happened to those people on Liberty Street is it was horrible. If you want to sit down and someone pulled a chair off from under you, you'll be absolutely taken off guard. Well, these people went down 15 feet. And that's the gist of the motion, Mr. Manager, and I think it has to be addressed.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor? Aye, chair votes yes. Next motion, Councilor Mercia, request city manager have proper department repair air conditioning units in all rooms at Stocklosa School and prepare report of when repairs were made. Second by Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Every year, we seem to have numerous problems with the HVAC system at that particular school, including air conditioning and heat at that school, and I understand that the city switched over recently to a new contractor. I know that there's people there that are doing repairs, but so they must be aware of this situation, although the situation persisted this summer, and I did have numerous calls from people that said how extremely hot it was. But I bring this motion up because it's my understanding that we had over 300 children at the school this summer, and the air conditioning in most of the classrooms were not working. And I know that there's a lot of schools in the city that do not have air conditioning, and I can sympathize with them when the weather gets pretty hot, as I can sympathize in this particular room itself. But we have children that went to summer school with health issues, asthma, bronchitis. They had these problems and no AC, and some days were extremely hot and they weren't sent home because of the heat. But I'm mostly concerned because, in my opinion, this school is still rather new, and things don't seem to work. And whether it's in the winter and the heating system isn't working, or whether it's a summer and the AC isn't working, and it seems like a perennial problem where we're always bringing this up. So the gist of this motion is that I want all the rooms checked and repaired to get ready for the start of the new school year. And I want to report on a timeline for this problem to be addressed and when it may be finished and what the outcome of the classrooms that were repaired. Because it shouldn't be. This is a rather relatively new school, and the system is always giving us problems. And I know in the winter I'm going to get calls that classrooms are cold, as the air conditioning didn't work in the summer. So that's the gist of
Manager?
that.
And Counselor, I apologize. I try to brief myself on the motions before they come in, so I'd at least have some background. And I didn't get a chance to do this. And obviously this is the first I've heard of this issue, and I'm not sure if any calls were put into our land and buildings people to deal with this, because again, this is the first I've heard about it. But I agree that this school building seems to have continual complaints, and I'm not sure. As you know, this was built back in, I think, 2005, roughly 2005, and so I'm not familiar with all of the issues that went on with. I know there've been a number of issues with this building, but we'll check and see what the deal is and make sure that everything's working.
That's the gist of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Next motion by Councilor Mercia, request manager provide a list of new businesses that opened and businesses that have closed in the past 5 years. Second by Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, through you to the Mr. Manager. This motion merely asks quite a few things, and we've discussed this already, and I could have went back 10 years, but I think 5 is even a long time. But I know that through the economy, businesses come and businesses go, and I understand that. So this is just out of my curiosity that I'm concerned about it, because I know that we have a downtown coordinator. I don't know whose responsibility it is, and I know, Mr. Manager, that you take it upon yourself to go out and meet different businesses a little at a time, not just in the downtown. And this motion doesn't refer to just the downtown, it's the city in general, because we do have little neighborhoods in every section of the city, Bridge Street, Mammoth Road, Chelmsford Street, and it isn't the downtown. So I'm concerned about that. I don't know if anybody keeps track of it, but I want to know, why do people come here to the city? Now, we just opened up Persona down on Market Street, a nice young man, has a service for the city. He owns a place in Nashua somewhere, as well as he's opening this place up. Do we ask the businesses, what brings you here? Why do you come here? And then again, do we find out when people are leaving and businesses are going? Why are you leaving? What can we do to keep you here? What's wrong? Is it the economy? Are you not marketing right? What is it? So I think that there's a vital role that someone can play here to communicate and be the link to the businesses so that we can ward off the fact that they may leave. Maybe we can put a stop to that. And I know, like Persona downtown, he's hiring some people, even though it's not the greatest, biggest, it's not a Lowe's or it's not a Marshall's, but still it's a business where he's hiring people that never were hired before, so that's a good thing. But it's all just out of my curiosity that I want to know, is there a way that we can be that link that shows businesses that we're friendly to you, we want to help you? And I'd be curious to know why businesses are coming here. It's just out of curiosity, that's all.
Mr. Manager?
Council, I think this is a great motion. I think, and I appreciate you bringing it forward. And we tried to get a little bit of information out to you tonight on
Yes, you
this.
did.
And I have, and I thank you for noting that I've been out meeting with businesses since the beginning of the year. I think I've met probably with 25 or so businesses throughout the city, on top of my other run-ins with the city, like Persona or other new businesses that come in. And we do work very much to we have a very active economic development division within the Department of Planning and Development. We speak with our business people on a regular basis and stay in touch with them as they look to grow or they look to expand. And if we hear that they're thinking about moving, we try to locate other spaces in the city for them and certainly try to work with them. And that goes on a regular basis. Now, as I think we talked about yesterday, some of the, first off, we don't have a list per se. There are businesses that are located here that we know are incorporated because they incorporate here in the city, and there are other ones that have offices here in the city, but they're incorporated elsewhere. So it's hard to put together a list per se. But we do know that from the information that we do have, that the number of establishments, businesses within the city of Lowell has grown over the last 5 years or thereabouts, from 2004 to 2009, with the bulk of them really happening in the last 2 or 3 years. Which is amazing given the economy, and then looking at, I'm working off the sheet we provided you tonight, that, in terms of percentage change, Billerica lost 2.2%, Chelmsford lost 4.3%, Drake had lost 7.0%, Dunstable stayed the same. Lowell grew by 3.9%, Pepperell stayed the same, Tewksbury lost businesses, Tingsboro lost businesses, Westford lost 8.5%. Overall, the region as a whole lost 2.2% according to the NIMCOG numbers, but we grew 3.9%. Then if you look at the total annual employment within the city, this isn't the unemployment rate. We know that there are people in the city that are looking for jobs. We have a higher unemployment rate, but the jobs within the city of Lowell has actually stayed pretty constant in spite of the economy. We have a number of new businesses that have located in the city, and we give you some sense of the reasons they've located here, whether it be the amenities, the quality of life, the proximity to UMass Lowell, we work in partnership with in locating businesses, the architecture, any number of reasons why people locate here. Unfortunately, in some cases, we don't have the type of space people need. For instance, I went out and I met with United Restaurant Equipment. That's a long-standing business here in the city. They love the city of Lowell. He was very proud of being of the city of Lowell. And they desperately wanted to stay in the city. Unfortunately, the type of space that they need, even though they're in a small retail building now downtown, they're not a retail operation. They sell cafeterias and kitchens, basically, to commercial users. They need warehouse space. They need the type of space and the size of space that we simply didn't have at the time that they felt they needed to make a move. And it broke their heart, I know, and I could see that in talking to them, that they had to look outside the city. But every business that we can, we try to work with to have them stay here in the city, and we've been very successful. And we hope over the course of the next couple of weeks to have some major announcements with some new businesses that are looking to stay here. They're looking to locate in the city from neighboring communities that have chosen Lowell. And, we have Persona. We have right across the Wings over Lowell. We have the clothing store that's right next to that's going in. A number of other new businesses that, Paradiso left, but there's the Fuse Bistro that's going in. Inizio left, but we have Indigo that has replaced it. We have a number of other retail operations downtown that we're working with. We do the best retail practices. We try to do some marketing efforts with businesses. So all in all, as I say, I've met with about 25 businesses over the last 6 months, and I think of those, I think 2 have had complaints, and I want to hear the complaints so we can address those needs.
Right.
But by and large, they're thrilled to be in the city, and they're very interested in growing in the city. So, but I'd love the opportunity to respond to this with a more formal report.
This was
And
good.
this is- yeah.
Good, too. I didn't read it all, but it's what I was looking for.
But we'll get you a better
Thank you.
report as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? All those in favor? Chair votes yes. Next motion, Counselor Murphy, request manager, Law Department, explore possible remedies to continual railroad violations of regulations restricting excessive engine idling. Second, Counselor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been an ongoing problem in my neighborhood and certainly from the Sacred Heart neighborhood into South Lowell, where there's been continual violations of EPA regulations on the time limit of how long an engine can idle, a 30-minute limit. Last year, just about a year from today, there was a precedent-setting case involving the MBTA, where for the first time there was actually a ruling against a railroad, and a number of mitigation measures were sought in that ruling, over $2 million, and there were fines as well in the hundreds of thousands range. But this is really to get an idea of what the city can do to work with the EPA to begin to actually enforce this law, and because it is a significant environmental justice issue for the people in the neighborhood, particularly those with kids who have asthma and can't go out in the yard at some points. So to get an idea of what plan or what steps the city can take to bring that company, Pan Am, into compliance with the federal law.
All those in favor? Aye. Chair votes yes. Next motion, Councilor Murphy, request manager develop with community input a short-term plan for Old Butler School property. Second by Councilman Dodson.
Staying in the same neighborhood. This is another ongoing issue that I understand from a report back a few months that there are, because of the listing in the National Register of Historic Places, there are limits to what federal funding can actually do in terms of demolition. So I think the first step would be looking into how you go about removing that from the National Register, because in the regulations there, the criteria that first allowed the Butler School to be placed on that register, if it's no longer relevant, the place is falling apart, you can use that as a way to actually take the building and the property off that register. And then begin to look at an interim plan, understanding that it might be used as an access point for the property behind it, the Prince factory, but to put in place a interim plan so that people in the neighborhood actually might have some kind of park or whatever can be done for little money while we continue basically to wait for action on the property behind it or for the market to change.
Thank you. Councilman Daza.
I was glad to see the motion on the agenda, as I had been given thought to that property. I go by there probably twice a day recently, and it's an eyesore right now. And if it was a privately held property, the city would be all over it with having the inspectors and there'd be all kinds of fines. It's overgrown, it's about to fall down. I agree with Councilor Murphy that at this point, the registration as a historic building is a detriment to the property. I don't think there's anyone's going to take it on now because of that. We had plans to build a school there, those fell through, they decided to go in a different direction. So we currently, as far as I know, have no plans for city use for the property going forward. And I think we need to redevelop it. I mean, Gorham Street is a major thoroughfare, and that segment of Gorham Street wherever you have an eyesight view of the school is just in poor condition, because who's going to improve their property when you have that next door or down the street? And I think the city, being the owner of that, needs to do something and needs to have a plan on how to address the situation on that property. And I think whether it remains a historic building or not, something needs to be done. And personally, I agree with the council that as long as it is a historic structure, we probably can't touch it. So that probably needs to be taken care of, and then maybe there'd be lots of interest for private development. That's a fairly large property. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very familiar with that building. There was a vote before us to build a school there, and I voted against it because the building was condemned back then. And to invest $40 million into that building was ridiculous. There's no parking. It's a bad location for a school. And right now, the building should be demolished. You could go up to the building and take a brick right off the outside wall. Inside the building, it's deteriorated. The roof was left open, water damaged, the whole 9 yards. So to use that as a school, to invest another $35 to $40 million in that building. It was built during the Abraham Lincoln era, 1860. It's named after General Butler. So that's why there's no school there, and there shouldn't have been one.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
I agree completely with the sentiments. It's a property that has we've been trying to figure out how to best utilize the property and looking at it from the standpoint of a bigger development plan for that whole area. But let us follow up on that and come back to the council with a strategy for, I think, Councilor Murphy's notion of a short-term plan is the best one for us, and then moving forward with a longer-term plan for that whole area.
All those in favor? Councilor Murphy.
Thank you. I should also note some irony in the fact that there's fences and signs keeping kids from the neighborhood out when my Uncle George spent so much time and creative energy on finding a way to sneak out of the building. But
thank you. Next, all those in favor? Aye, chair votes yes. Next order of business, motion by Councilor Murphy. Request manager develop proposal for a portion of the Green Communities Grant to fund purchase and distribution of solar trash compactors and recycling, etc. Second by Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a result of our initial round of grant funding under the Green Communities Act, we also, in addition, received several of these solar compactors and recycling kiosks that we've now put throughout the downtown, and which actually save significant money over the long term. They have a payback period of about 3 to 5 years. So the idea, realizing that earlier this year we had to cut back on the level of service that we're providing to the neighborhood business districts, that where these can have a capacity, because of the solar technology, have a capacity of up to 5 times greater the same the volume as a normal waste barrel. That the placement of both a compactor as well as the kiosk can result in having 10 times, essentially tenfold the capacity that we have out there just for one. That this could be something that's a part of the next round of funding, which is coming up very shortly, to be able to put in the business districts which are more heavily traveled in terms of pedestrians, and maybe even along the river in Pawtuckaville, where there's heavy traffic there of pedestrians and cyclists.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? Aye. Next motion, Councilor Murphy, request manager review home business zoning regulations to potentially allow more employees and spur local job growth. Seconded by Councilor Dakota.
This is something that the city of Seattle is actually looking at, and it was something that was brought to my attention by an architect who was hoping to locate his business here at his home with another couple of partners, just to begin with. He instead had to go to another community as a result of our zoning code, I think because he didn't want to go through the special permit process. But I think there may be some kind of reasonable relaxing of the home business zoning regulations, so that you do have more of an incentive for people who, in those certain occupations, which clearly is reflected in the ordinance itself, where there isn't a high-level disturbance to the neighborhood and that sort of thing, that there be some kind of incentive so that people who are allowed to grow in the short term are able to maybe locate here in the long term, rather than in some other community that's a bit more permissive in that way. So to look at those regulations and hopefully come back with a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mercier.
The motion gives thought to something, but I have another thought too. And I don't mind if someone sets up a business and it's like a mail order mammogram business where they do it in the mail, but I wouldn't want a taxi cab company coming from my neighbor's house and setting up some type of thing like that. So we have to be very careful on what type of business we're talking about in neighborhoods, and I don't want some things I don't want in my neighborhood, but the thought's there anyway.
Councilor Murphy.
As I stated, in the ordinance...
I meant monogramming, not monogramming, like shirts and not... No, what? I meant monogramming.
Thank you.
Better not be in that column there, Lyle.
Thank you for the correction. I wouldn't want that type of business either. But it is in the zoning code right now, the types of businesses and the limits to disturbances, like the number of trucks or vehicles visiting the place and the number of people there. And it's just to look at whether we can relax that somewhat, maybe not to the extent that Councilor Mercier has indicated, but somewhat, so that people are more likely to grow here in Lowell. Thank you.
Thank you. All those, anything else? All those in favor? Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Councilor
Mr. Mayor, before you adjourn, I would like to, I do this every year, but a large thank you should go out to the Lowell National Park for the Lowell Folk Festival, the sponsors, the various ethnic foods that was there for everyone to enjoy, the volunteers. Without the volunteers, you wouldn't have a folk festival, especially those people who were working the recyclable. 95% of all the paper goods were recyclable. So, and the city workers who worked very, very hard. Musicians were outstanding, along with the weather. I want to thank the Lowell Sun for the excellent coverage, and WCAP as well for being there. It was just a great, great weekend, and the food was delightful, and everyone had a tremendous time. I met a woman from Pasadena, California, and God knows there was many, many people from all over the country in our city. So, Mr. Manager, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further business? Motion to adjourn. Councilor Dakota, second, and Councilor Murphy. Thank you.